Chapter 1249. Bloodline. A phoenix's nirvanic rebirth was a very long process. Although Ningyu didn't know how a phoenix underwent nirvanic rebirth, ordinary people knew that it wasn't so easy to succeed. Even something as powerful as a phoenix would find it difficult to succeed, let alone a mortal like Ning Hai. Something's wrong. Suddenly, Ningyu's expression changed. The golden light around Ning Hai's body grew denser and denser. In the end, golden blood began to seep out of his skin. How could his blood be golden? Both Spirit Void and Pil Guzi were shocked. I get it, ha ha ha. I get it. Ningyu raised his head and laughed. What's going on? Spirit Void and Pil Guzi hastily turned to Ningyu. The War God Body. Ningyu said solemnly. What? The War God Body? As expected, hearing the words War God Body come out of Ningyu's mouth, Spirit Void and Pil Guzi almost jumped in shock. The War God Body was a godlike existence. A fully matured War God Body would basically be invincible in the same realm. Fighting across realms would be as easy as chopping vegetables. The only thing that surprised them was that it had been many years since the War God Body had appeared on the continent. Could it be that Ning Hai's background was very special? His bloodline isn't very pure. After examining Ning Hai's blood, Ningyu shook his head. It only has 1/10 of the normal War God Body's bloodline. Not bad. 1/10 of the War God Body's bloodline is extremely terrifying. Pil Guzi seemed to have some understanding of the War God Body. Right now, the most important thing isn't to discuss this. It's to find a way for your father to consume large amounts of medicinal pills and origin crystals. Yes, your father is undergoing nirvanic rebirth. He definitely needs a large amount of medicinal pills and origin crystals. Spirit Void nodded. Nirvanic rebirth is too difficult. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu solemnly said, Senior Spirit Void, Pil Guzi, think of a way to find medicinal pills and origin crystals for me. I'll stay behind to help. No problem. Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi knew just how serious the situation was. They immediately left the room and began to scavenge for pills and crystals. Once Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi left, Ningyu's expression turned grave. The Nirvana rebirth was extremely difficult. Even the complete God of War body might not be able to succeed. Not to mention Ning Hai's half-baked War God physique. Therefore, Ningyu was under a lot of pressure. If he succeeded, then Ning Hai's cultivation would experience a terrifying increase. It was even possible for him to reach grade 8 or grade 9 human supreme realm. If he failed, he would turn into ashes and disappear from the world. In order to let Ning Hai successfully undergo nirvana, Ningyu sat cross-legged behind Ning Hai. He placed his hands on Ning Hai's back, and a steady stream of essence qi entered Ning Hai's body through his palms. As the essence in his body continued to increase, Ning Hai's aura gradually stabilized. Ningyu, one of these 2 storage pouches contains origin crystals and the other contains medicinal pills. Before long, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi returned to the room. They didn't enter the room, but threw the 2 storage pouches inside. Jinen, go guard outside the room. Without my permission, don't let anyone in, including Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi. Ningyu said in a low voice. Russell. Jinen was very obedient. He moved his feet and instantly arrived outside the room. Come back and throw the storage pouches over to me. Jinen had just arrived outside the room when Ningyu's voice sounded in his ear. Helpless, Jinen could only return to the room and throw the storage pouches to Ningyu. Crack. Disregarding all consequences, Ningyu poured out all the medicinal pills and origin crystals in the storage pouches, tossing them into his mouth and chewing them. Reality proved that Ningyu's actions were a little impulsive. Who were Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi? The medicinal pills and essence crystals that they found were all not ordinary items. The lowest grade medicinal pills were grade 8, and the lowest origin crystals were king grade. Refine for me. Swallowing so many medicinal pills and crystals in one go, Ning Yu's expression was extremely grave. He hurriedly circulated the spirit transformation art and started refining. ZZZT. However, just as Ning Yu was about to refine the medicinal pills and crystals in his body, he discovered a terrifying devouring power coming from Ning Hai's body, entering his body through his palm. The medicinal pills and crystals were completely devoured by this devouring power before they could be refined. The devouring power seemed to have come with a purpose. After refining the medicinal pills and crystals in Ning Yu's body, it once again returned to Ning Hai's body to hibernate. Swish. After another period of time, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi returned once more, similarly throwing out 2 storage pouches and disappearing. The same thing happened a second time. The devouring power in Ning Hai's body entered Ning Yu's body again, devouring the medicinal pills and crystals, and then returned to hibernate in Ning Hai's body. This situation repeated many times. Ning Yu's expression gradually changed from solemnity to ecstasy. Because Ning Yu discovered that Ning Hai's situation was improving, and the rate of improvement was increasing. There's more and more golden blood on the surface of his body, and the density of his bloodline has reached 20% of an adult war god body. Ning Yu couldn't help but be excited. The stronger Ning Hai's bloodline power was, the more heaven-defying his strength after nirvanic rebirth would be. At the same time, the success rate of nirvanic rebirth would be lower. However, Ning Yu didn't need to worry about the low success rate at all. The reason for the low success rate of nirvanic rebirth was because when a phoenix or a martial artist underwent nirvanic rebirth, they couldn't refine medicinal pills and crystals in time to provide their own energy. Now that Ning Hai's body had an unknown devouring power helping him, this worry was completely eliminated. With 10% bloodline power, after nirvanic rebirth, my cultivation can reach early stage rank 8 human supreme. With 20% bloodline power, I should be able to reach mid-stage rank 8. Ning Yu murmured, his face burning. Chi. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, 3 hours had passed. A crisp sound came from the surface of Ning Hai's body. 30%. Ning Yu's expression had returned to normal from the initial ecstasy. With 30% bloodline power, his cultivation could reach late-stage rank 8 after nirvanic rebirth. As his enemies grew stronger, Ning Yu knew that late-stage rank 8 human supreme was no longer of much use. Unless Ning Hai had 100% bloodline power of the war god body, there was no way he could defeat a late-stage rank 8 human supreme. The strength of the war god body was closely related to the density of the bloodline. Between the same strength of the war god body, the higher the density of the bloodline, the stronger the battle strength. I wonder what percentage of bloodline father can achieve. Ning Yu's eyes were fixed on the changes in Ning Hai, even ignoring the changes in his own body. If revered spirits Su and Dan Guzi were here, they would definitely be very surprised. Because on the surface of Ning Yu's skin, a trace of dark golden blood was seeping out. Chapter 1250. His butt. Drip. Time passed by quickly. Every so often, venerated spirits Su and Pil Guzi would return to the outside of the secret room, each time with 1 or 2 storage bags in their hand. The storage bag was filled with elixirs and essence crystals. In a few short hours, venerated spirits Su and Pil Guzi had run through the Grand Xia several times. Fortunately, they were both 9th-rank human sovereigns. Any other cultivator would have long since collapsed from exhaustion. At first, venerated spirits Su and Pil Guzi could still find king-grade yuan crystals and 8th-rank pills. But as time passed, the quality of the pills and yuan crystals they brought became lower and lower. From 8th-rank pills and king-grade yuan crystals, they dropped to 6th-rank pills and transcendent-rank yuan crystals. Swish. Swish. After a day and night, when venerated spirits Su and Pil Guzi threw the last 2 storage bags into the secret room, they slumped to the ground, large beads of sweat forming on their foreheads. Even though revered spirits Su and Dan Guzi were both ninth-grade mortal sovereigns, they felt a little powerless at this moment. After 24 hours of long-distance travel, their internal energy had long since been exhausted. Pil Guzi, do you think Ning Hai can successfully undergo nirvanic rebirth? Venerated Spirit Su asked from outside the secret room. Venerated Spirit Su knew very well that Pil Guzi's understanding of nirvanic rebirth was much deeper than his own. If even Pil Guzi couldn't determine whether Ning Hai could successfully undergo nirvanic rebirth, then there was no way he could. Less than a 20% chance. Pil Guzi's expression was grave. Although he had been helping Ning Hai find pills and yuan crystals, Pil Guzi didn't believe Ning Hai could successfully undergo nirvanic rebirth. Pil Guzi had once read through some records and knew just how difficult nirvanic rebirth was. Even if Ning Hai had 100% bloodline of the war god body, it would still be very difficult for him to undergo nirvanic rebirth, let alone an incomplete war god body. As for Ning Yu's help, Pil Guzi hadn't neglected it at all. In front of nirvanic rebirth, even a 9th-rank human sovereign was powerless, let alone a peak 3rd-rank human sovereign like Ningyu. Crackle. Outside the secret room, Ningyu had no idea of Pil Guzi and Venerated Spirit Su's worries. At this time, Ningyu had already noticed the dark golden blood on the surface of his skin, and he felt a headache coming on. This was because this dark golden blood had a terrifying consequence. He was unable to use his yuan qi. Once he tried to mobilize the essence qi in his body, he would feel waves of weakness attacking him, making it impossible for him to guard against it. Father's war god body bloodline has been awakened to 40%. Temporarily ignoring the condition of the surface of the skin, Ningyu shifted his gaze to Ning Hai. On the surface of Ning Hai's skin, the golden blood had already seeped into his skin, and a muffled sound came from within Ning Hai's body. Bang! Following this muffled sound, Ning Hai's war god body bloodline increased from 40% to 50%. With 50% of his bloodline power, his cultivation would reach the terrifying 9th-grade human sovereign realm after nirvana rebirth. At the current stage, the impact of a 9th-grade human supreme was still very great. I must help father. Clenching his fists tightly, Ningyu made up his mind to help his father complete his transformation no matter what. However, when Ningyu looked at Ning Hai again, his mouth was agape in shock, and his face was filled with disbelief. The reason why Ningyu was shocked was because he noticed that on the surface of Ning Hai's skin, traces of golden blood had once again emerged. Compared to the previous time, not only was the golden blood emerging faster, but the amount was also greater. Not good. Just as Ningyu was in a daze, the golden blood on the surface of Ning Hai's skin actually flowed through his palm and into his body. Rumble. As soon as the golden blood entered Ningyu's body, it met its match. Dark golden blood. The dark golden blood and the golden blood seemed to have a deep hatred between them, and when enemies met, their eyes would burn with hatred. The golden blood and the dark golden blood started a huge battle within Ningyu's body. The battle did not last long, and it quickly dissipated. After it dissipated, Ningyu hurriedly used the endoscopy technique to check the situation within his body. Even though Ningyu was prepared, he still gasped at this moment. The reason why Ningyu gasped was not because Ningyu was in despair, but because he was very excited. After the dark golden blood and the golden blood fought for a while, it completely gained the upper hand and devoured the golden blood. After devouring the golden blood, the dark golden blood was vigorous, as though it was looking down on the world. Behave yourself. Ningyu's expression was very ugly. It was just a drop of liquid, but it was acting so arrogantly. Buzz. As though it heard Ningyu's roar, the dark golden blood gradually dispersed and merged with Ningyu's blood. The sudden change caused Ningyu's pupils to constrict, and his eyes revealed an extremely shocked expression. The war god body with 80% bloodline power. Ningyu could not believe the changes in his body. He was here mainly to wait for his father to be reborn. Now, his father had yet to be reborn, but he had awakened 80% of his bloodline power. And his father had only awakened 50% of his bloodline power. Bang! In the blink of an eye, a muffled sound came from Ningyu's sea of consciousness. What the F***ck? If Ningyu was shocked before, then now, Ningyu directly cursed. Shock, surprise, joy, all kinds of emotions appeared on Ningyu's face, and it seemed very sudden. Fourth grade human supreme. At this moment, Ningyu broke through the shackles, advancing from the peak of third grade human supreme to fourth grade human supreme. I broke through just like that? As the person involved, Ningyu was very confused. It could be said that he was extremely confused. Until now, he did not even know how he advanced to fourth grade human supreme. He only saw the golden blood flowing out of Ning Hai's skin, entering his body and wreaking havoc. The golden blood wreaked havoc for a while before being devoured by the dark golden blood, disappearing completely. Then, Ningyu realized that there were changes in his body. A muffled sound came from his sea of consciousness. Ningyu's cultivation advanced from the peak of third grade human supreme to fourth grade human supreme. Roar. Suddenly, a loud roar was heard. Then, a black figure flew out from the storage ring. Ha ha ha, I've finally advanced to fourth grade human supreme. Ningyu, I came looking for you right after I advanced to fourth grade human supreme. Now let me test your strength. With a wild laugh, the Dark Emperor swept his tail towards Ningyu's thigh. The Dark Emperor was still very rational. He did not go for the kill, but only used 50% of his strength. Because in the Dark Emperor's view, as long as he used his full strength, Ningyu would definitely not be able to withstand it. Scram! Ningyu was studying the changes in his body, as well as how long it would take for Ning Hai to successfully undergo nirvana. The Dark Emperor's disturbance at this time was purely asking for a beating. Ningyu raised his right leg and kicked the Dark Emperor's, but as he berated. Chapter 1251. His cultivation soared. Plop! The Dark Emperor's body drew an arc in the air before landing outside the secret chamber. Dark Emperor? Why did you come out of the secret chamber? Outside the secret chamber, Sage Spiritual Su and Dan Guzi sat cross-legged on the ground, panting heavily. Seeing the Dark Emperor come out of the secret chamber, they looked at the Dark Emperor suspiciously with puzzled expressions. The Dark Emperor shivered and hurriedly stood up. With a sweep of his tail and a pat of his butt, the Dark Emperor pretended that nothing had happened. With my help, Ningyu advanced to the fourth grade sovereign realm. What? Sage Spirit Void and Pil Guzi were both shocked. Not long ago, Ningyu was only a peak third grade sovereign realm. How long had it been? And now, Ningyu had advanced to the fourth grade sovereign realm? What's the big deal? Ningyu's talent is SOSO, just a little bit weaker than mine. Even I could advance to the fourth grade sovereign realm, so it's not surprising that he advanced to the fourth grade sovereign realm. Waving his hand, the Dark Emperor said, "You guys stay here and watch. I've also just advanced to the fourth grade sovereign realm, so I need to find a place to rest." As he spoke, the Dark Emperor limped off into the distance. "Oh, Ningyu, you brat. When I completely stabilize my cultivation, I'll definitely give your butt a good spanking." But as the Dark Emperor left, he vaguely uttered those words. How powerful were Sage Spiritual Su and Dan Guzi's senses. When they heard the Dark Emperor's words, their mouths twitched a few times. Without a doubt, the Dark Emperor must have wanted to cause trouble, but was forcefully chased out by Ningyu. Dan Guzi, isn't Ningyu helping his father undergo nirvanic rebirth? How does he still have time to cultivate? After the Dark Emperor left, Sage Spiritual Su frowned. In Sage Spiritual Su's view, Ningyu being able to survive so close to Ning Hai's nirvanic rebirth was already a great fortune, not to mention improving further. There were a few times when he wanted to open the secret room and enter. But when he saw Jean standing next to him like a door god, he chose to stop. The Golden Leo was so powerful that Reverend Spirit Sue didn't dare to fight it. I'm not sure. I've never encountered such a situation before. Shaking his head, Dan Guzzi's expression was grave. Nirvana rebirth only existed in ancient books. Even he had never seen it with his own eyes. Forget it. We can't interfere with what Ningyu wants to do. The only thing we can do now is to recover as soon as possible and seal the secret room to prevent it from affecting others. Taking a deep breath, Honorable Spirit Sue sat down cross-legged again and began to cultivate. Chi-chi. Inside the secret chamber, Ningyu clenched his right fist and punched out. The void let out a sizzling sound. My strength has at least doubled. Ningyu's face lit up as he felt the terrifying essence energy filling his body. Ningyu could clearly feel that with his current strength, he could instantly kill a 9th-grade initial human Supreme Master. He could even fight against a 9th-grade intermediate human Supreme Master. Of course, against a 9th-grade late human Supreme Master, only death awaited him. I need to find a way to increase my cultivation. Ningyu's expression was grave. He decided that after Ning Hai's Nirvana rebirth was successful, he would do everything he could to increase his cultivation. External power was meaningless. Only one's own strength was important. Although Ningyu was one of the 5 absolute geniuses, they were only useful against cultivators below the Earth Supreme Realm. In other words, when Ningyu was a 4th-grade mortal sovereign, he could fight against a 9th-grade mortal supreme. But when he was a 5th-grade mortal supreme, he couldn't fight against a 9th-grade mortal supreme. In the sovereign realm, the 5 absolute geniuses and 4 absolute geniuses were less and less useful. But that didn't mean that the 5 absolute geniuses were useless. They would still be of great help to Ningyu when he tried to break through to the Earth Supreme Realm. The higher the talent, the higher the chance of breaking through to the Earth Supreme Realm. For example, now that Ningyu was one of the 5 absolute geniuses, he had a 50% chance of breaking through to the Earth Supreme Realm. Once he became one of the 6 absolute geniuses, the chance of breaking through to the Earth Supreme Realm would reach 60%. And this was also the reason why countless people wanted to increase their talent. Forget it, the most important thing now is to help my father achieve Nirvana rebirth. Shaking his head, Ningyu tried hard to get rid of the thoughts in his mind and began to carefully observe Ning Hai. When the golden blood entered Ning Hai's body, Ning Hai's entire body emitted a golden light. Moreover, the golden light became more and more obvious. This was clearly a sign of Nirvana rebirth. The only thing that made Ningyu feel regretful was that his father's war god physique bloodline had only reached 50%. 50% of the war god physique bloodline would only allow his cultivation to reach 9th-grade mortal supreme after Nirvana rebirth. Poochie. All of a sudden, the situation changed. Ning Hai spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His body swayed and the golden blood on the surface of his body began to recede. Not good. This change caused Ningyu's expression to change slightly. Ningyu was well aware of this. The denser the war god physique bloodline was, the lower the chance of Nirvana rebirth. However, there was a unique devouring force in Ning Hai's body that was constantly devouring energy. Thus, Ning Hai had completely eliminated this worry. Fight. I'll transfer my war god physique bloodline to my father. Ningyu wasn't an indecisive person. Since Ning Hai wasn't worried about the low chance of Nirvana rebirth, then he would completely let go. Placing his hands on Ning Hai's back, Ningyu forced out the blood essence of his war god physique and continuously transferred it into Ning Hai's body. As the war god physique bloodline increased, Ning Hai's body emitted a golden light, as if he was a golden war god. Russell. Standing up abruptly, Ning Hai's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. Now is not the time to awaken the power of the bloodline. Ning Hai first swept his gaze around the room, before his gaze fell onto Ningyu. Nirvana rebirth isn't too difficult for me. I'll leave the power of the bloodline for you. Swoosh. With a point of his right hand, a few drops of blood essence flew out and entered Ningyu's body. The power of the bloodline. Ningyu could clearly feel that the power of the war god physique bloodline in his body was soaring. 80%, 90%. But with this dull sound, something in Ningyu's body seemed to be broken. His stagnant cultivation once again rose at a speed visible to the naked eye. Early 4th grade human supreme martial artist. Middle 4th grade human supreme martial artist. Middle 4th grade human supreme martial artist. Late 4th grade human supreme martial artist. Peak 4th grade human supreme martial artist. In just a few seconds, Ningyu's cultivation had risen from early 4th grade human supreme martial artist to peak 4th grade human supreme martial artist. Crack. Another half an hour passed. When this crisp sound rang out in his consciousness, Ningyu was a little stunned. 5th grade human supreme martial artist. The power of the bloodline was actually this terrifying. After his cultivation advanced to early 5th grade human supreme martial artist, the speed at which Ningyu's cultivation rose had slowed down significantly. Although it had slowed down, it still continued to rise. Chapter 1252. Not quite. Whoosh. He slowly let out a breath of turbid air. Sensing the changes in his sea of consciousness, Ningyu's expression was one of extreme shock. Was this the power of bloodline? In his previous life, Ningyu had been just an ordinary person. He didn't have any special constitution. He had thought that in this life, he would also be an ordinary person. He hadn't expected his constitution to be the war god body. The war god body was said to be able to slay gods and immortals. It was one of the top 10 constitutions in the world. With Ning Hai's help, Ningyu's bloodline had reached 100% density. In fact, it had even undergone some changes. Ordinary people with the war god body would have golden blood flowing through their veins even at 100%. But Ningyu had dark golden blood flowing through his veins. It was indeed a bit strange. You leave first. I'm about to begin my nirvanic rebirth. Right at this moment, Ning Hai waved his hand and signaled Ningyu to leave the chamber first. Startled, Ningyu said, "You want to leave now? I might be able to help you if I stay. You've just advanced to the mid-rank 5 human sovereign, so your body isn't very stable yet. You'll need some time to stabilize." Ning Hai said, "Don't worry, a mere nirvanic rebirth isn't a problem for me." Ning Hai exuded a strong domineering aura. Helpless, Ningyu could only tell him to be careful and leave the room. Creak. Seeing Ningyu walk out of the room, revered spirits Su and Pil Guzi shot to their feet. "Ningyu, your father succeeded in his nirvanic rebirth? What's his cultivation level now?" "Ningyu, your father has the war god body. After his nirvanic rebirth, he'll definitely be extraordinary. My guess is that he's at least a peak rank 8 human sovereign, or even a rank 9 human sovereign." Pil Guzi had a better understanding of the war god body and nirvanic rebirth. "Stop guessing. My father is undergoing nirvanic rebirth." Shaking his head, Ningyu said, "Even I was chased out." "Even you were chased out?" Sage Spirit Void and Pil Guzi were astonished. They were very puzzled. Could it be that something went wrong during the nirvana? Otherwise, with Ningyu's strength, he could totally stay in the secret chamber. Dan Guzi sighed and said, "Just wait. I don't think your father is the type of person to speak without thinking. Since he allowed you to come out, it means he has a certain level of confidence." "That's right. Nirvana rebirth is no small matter. Even if we go in, we won't be of much help." Reverend Lingshu agreed. "At this stage, this is the only way." Taking a deep breath, Ningyu found a place to sit down cross-legged and circulated the spirit transformation art to cultivate. Something's wrong. Ningyu had just begun circulating the spirit transformation art when Venerable Spirit Void and Dan Guzi called out at the same time. Ningyu stopped and looked at them in confusion. You've actually advanced to the mid-rank 5 mortal sovereign realm. Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi's eyes widened as if they had seen a ghost. Just now, when the Dark Emperor had come out, he had said that Ningyu was a rank 4 mortal sovereign. How long had it been? How could Ningyu have advanced to the mid-rank 5 mortal sovereign realm? But the truth was right in front of them. They had no choice but to believe it. I was just lucky. Ningyu didn't want to say anything more about this matter. He closed his eyes and began circulating the spirit transformation art to cultivate. What a freak! Since Ningyu didn't want to talk about it, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi didn't ask. They muttered a few words to themselves and then fell silent. For a time, the outside of the secret chamber became abnormally quiet. On the contrary, the inside of the secret chamber was filled with rumbling sounds. Ning Hai's nirvana had already begun. His entire body was constantly being burned by the golden flames. His skin had turned from golden to black. There was even the smell of burning flesh. Ning Hai's entire body was in an extremely mysterious state. A special devouring power also surged out of his body to help him block the golden flames. Fortunately, he had the help of this devouring power. Otherwise, Ning Hai wouldn't have been able to withstand the burning of the golden flames. Looks like this devouring power is a good thing. As long as I use it properly, it will be a great helper. Although his entire body was black, Ning Hai's consciousness was not in a mess. Ning Hai's will was firm. He still believed that he could succeed in nirvana. Or rather, Ning Hai didn't care about this nirvana. Whoosh! Endless golden flames blossomed like a bright flower. Ning Hai's entire body was submerged in the golden flames. Looking closely, the golden flames wanted to refine Ning Hai. You want to refine me? It's not that easy. Ning Hai's eyes shone with a frightening light. He opened his mouth and swallowed the golden flames that had just bloomed into his stomach. What you're doing is purely courting death. A hollow voice came from Ning Hai's body. Hearing this voice, Ning Hai's face darkened. He said coldly, I don't need you to tell me what I want to do. Hee, I'm afraid you'll damage my war god physique. The hollow voice sounded again. Let me remind you, you have less than a year to live. As the voice faded, the hollow voice disappeared completely. Boom! When the hollow voice disappeared, Ning Hai's nirvana also came to an end. If others saw this, they would definitely be very shocked. Because Ning Hai's nirvana was completely different from an ordinary phoenix's nirvana. After Ning Hai's nirvana, his cultivation did not increase much. He only reached the early stage of a rank 8 human sovereign. However, Ning Hai's aura was restrained like a fierce tiger. Although he was only an early stage 8 human sovereign, Ning Hai's battle strength was very shocking. Creak. After resting in the secret chamber for a while, Ning Hai pushed open the door and walked out. Swish. 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 Seeing Ning Hai appear, Ningyu, Sovereign Spirit Su, and Pil Guzi immediately rushed out and surrounded Ning Hai. You succeeded in nirvana? The first to be shocked was Pil Guzi. Pil Guzi was very confused. In such a short time, it was logically impossible for Ning Hai to succeed in nirvana. But the truth was right in front of him. He had no choice but to believe it. Ning Hai had succeeded in nirvana, and his cultivation had reached the early stage of a rank 8 human sovereign. Although it was a bit unexpected, it was still an increase in his cultivation. Nodding, Ning Hai said, I did succeed in nirvana. I hope the two of you won't speak of this matter. Boom. As he spoke, Ning Hai's aura exploded out, pressing down on Pil Guzi and Sovereign Spirit Su. Crack crack. Under the pressure of Ning Hai's aura, Sovereign Spirit Su and Pil Guzi couldn't help but want to kneel. This kind of aura was too terrifying, so terrifying that they had no way of resisting it. Father, these two have gone through life and death with me, and it was Senior Spirit Su who saved us. Ningyu hurriedly said, afraid that Ning Hai would harm Sovereign Spirit Su and Pil Guzi. Ning Hai's aura not only shocked Sovereign Spirit Su and the others, but also made Ningyu want to kneel. Ningyu was sure that Ning Hai wasn't deliberately suppressing him. He had just been affected by the aftershocks. If even the aftershocks almost made him kneel, it could be imagined how much pressure Sovereign Spirit Su and Pil Guzi were under. Sovereign Spirit Su. Chapter 1253. Chapter 1253. Purple Spirit Body. In order to avoid being hunted down, I changed my appearance. Under Ning Hai's powerful pressure, revered Spirit Su shook his head, and his appearance changed. It really is you. Ning Hai nodded when he saw Honorable Spiritual Su's face. It was all thanks to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to survive. With your strength. Revered Spirit Void wanted to say something, but he didn't continue. My body was sealed back then, so I couldn't unleash my full power. Ning Hai knew what Revered Spirit Su was thinking. He smiled faintly and said, otherwise, I can kill any Tom, Dick, or Harry in minutes. No wonder you could marry Xiaoshan. I used to think she was blind, but now it seems you really do have the right. Sovereign Spirit Void understood. For Ning Hai, Mu Yunshan had even rejected the palace head of Emperor God Palace. Back then, the palace head had been a peerless genius, one of the top geniuses of the Sky Demon region. Back then, everyone at the Supreme Nine Purities Temple had tried to stop them. No one had thought well of the relationship. The reason was that Ning Hai's talent had been tested at the Supreme Nine Purities Temple and his performance had been mediocre. Some of the higher-ups of the Supreme Nine Purities Temple had even concluded that Ning Hai would never be able to cultivate to the Paragon realm. After testing Ning Hai's talent, the Supreme Nine Purities Temple had completely banished him. A person who couldn't even cultivate to the Paragon realm wasn't fit to be Mu Yunshan's husband. Let's not talk about those things. Ning Hai waved his hand. Sovereign Spirit Void, I have some things to discuss with little you. Please leave for a moment. Of course, of course. Nodding, Sovereign Spirit Void and Dan Guzi left the secret room. Ning Hai then shifted his gaze to Jean and Father. That's a puppet under my control, said Ningyu. Swish. Ning Hai retracted his gaze and made a grabbing motion with his right hand. A cold light shot out. It was extremely fast, entering Ningyu's mind in the blink of an eye. This, sensing the information that appeared in his mind, Ningyu opened his mouth wide in disbelief. Supreme Nine Purities Sword Art. The information that appeared in Ningyu's mind was the last 6 moves of the Supreme Nine Purities Sword Art. The Supreme Nine Purities Sword formula had a total of 12 moves. Ning Hai had told Ningyu the first 6 moves for the first time, and now he had also told Ningyu the last 6 moves. This is for you too. Before Ningyu could familiarize himself with the last few moves of the Supreme Nine Purities Sword formula, Ning Hai took out another jade pendant. The jade pendant was not particularly large, only the size of a palm. Soul Jade Pendant. Ningyu looked surprised. Ningyu could clearly sense that the jade pendant contained a terrifyingly pure soul force. As long as he could refine this soul force, his soul strength would definitely reach the 8th grade advanced stage. I will be leaving the Great Xia Kingdom next. After handing over the jade pendant to Ningyu, Ning Hai said with a calm expression, Leaving the Great Xia Kingdom? Ningyu asked doubtfully, Father, are you going to the Supreme Nine Purities Temple? With my current strength, I still can't step into the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Shaking his head, Ning Hai said, I need to find a place to increase my strength as soon as possible and strive to break through the limit as soon as possible. Break through the limit? Ningyu was stunned at first, then said in surprise, Father, when you were at your peak, could you have been an Earth Supreme? Ningyu could not help but be surprised. According to his observation, Ning Hai was covered in a layer of white mist, and he could not see through it at all. It's not time for you to know about these things yet. You should first refine this soul jade pendant, and strive to increase your soul strength to the 8th grade advanced stage. Ning Hai did not want to talk about this anymore, so he changed the topic and pointed at the jade pendant in Ning Yu's hand, saying, "I will protect you." Alright. Since Ning Hai did not want to say more, Ning Yu did not ask any further. Ning Yu knew that there were some things that Ning Hai did not tell him for his own good. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu picked up the jade pendant, threw it directly into his mouth, and chewed. Crack! The jade pendant shattered, and a thick soul strength flowed through Ning Yu's throat and into his body. "Hurry up and use your sorcery to refine it," Ning Hai said anxiously. Ning Yu calmly used the spirit conversion technique, and began to refine this pure soul strength. Buzz! With Ning Hai's help, it didn't take long for Ning Yu to completely refine the soul force in the jade pendant. Bang! After refining so much pure soul strength, Ning Yu's soul strength successfully advanced from the 8th grade intermediate stage to the 8th grade advanced stage. So difficult? Feeling the strength of Ning Yu's soul strength, Ning Hai slightly frowned, a little puzzled. There was a lot of pure soul strength in the jade pendant, and it did not make sense for Ning Yu to only increase his soul strength by 1 rank. Could it be that Ning Yu was different from others, and that he needed to consume a few times more pure soul strength than others to increase his soul strength by 1 rank? Thinking of this, Ning Hai slightly used his perception, wanting to check Ning Yu's sea of consciousness. Forget it, everyone has their own path. Before his perception entered Ning Yu's sea of consciousness, Ning Hai stopped. "I'm leaving. You can only go to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple when you advance to the Earth Supremacy stage." Waving his hand, Ning Hai left these words, and then tore through the void and entered. Looking at Ning Hai's departing figure, Ning Yu was a little confused. Until now, Ning Yu still clearly remembered what Ning Hai told him for the first time. Don't go to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple if you don't reach the Earth Supremacy stage. Now that he had reached the Earth Supremacy stage, and was a mid-level 5th grade human supremacy, Ning Hai changed his words and told him not to go to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple if he didn't reach the Earth Supremacy stage. Ning Yu even suspected that when he advanced to the Earth Supremacy stage, his father would appear again and tell him not to go to the Supreme 9 Purities Temple unless he reached the Sky Supremacy stage. Father should be from the War God Physique race, and his position in the War God Physique race is definitely not low. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu tried to calm himself down. There were many physiques in this world. In his previous life, Ning Yu was a Sky Supremacy, so he had some understanding of these things. Some powerful physiques lived in groups and lived in seclusion, not easily coming out. It seemed that they were waiting for something. What a headache! Rubbing his head, Ning Yu got up and walked to another secret room. Creak! Pushing open the secret room, Ning Yu found Lu Wei sitting cross-legged in the center, her whole body shrouded in a light purple gas. Even the surface of Lu Wei's skin was constantly oozing purple blood. My God, physique race! Seeing the changes in Lu Wei, Ning Yu felt like he was in deep shit. Purple spirit physique. Lu Wei's current state was clearly the state of the purple spirit physique. Only a purple spirit physique could do this. Ning Yu was very confused. Didn't Lu Wei have the extreme Yin physique? Why did it become the purple spirit physique after breaking the extreme Yin physique? Just like the War God physique, the purple spirit physique was also an extremely terrifying physique. Chapter 1254. Chapter 1254. The time is not up. How could Lu Wei have a purple spirit body? Ning Yu felt that he had wasted his previous life. He was a Sky Supreme in his previous life, but he was so engrossed in alchemy that he rarely came into contact with the outside world. Whoosh! At this moment, Lu Wei suddenly opened her eyes and pointed with her right hand. Instantly, a cold light shot towards Ning Yu at a terrifying speed. Whoosh! Not only was the cold light fast, it was also extremely powerful. Ning Yu could clearly feel that if he was hit in the head by the cold light, he would be severely injured. Ding! At this critical moment, Ningyu took out the red demon's sword and blocked the cold light. A crisp sound rang out in the secret chamber. Lu Wei, I didn't expect you to have a purple spirit body. You've exceeded my expectations. Ningyu smiled as he walked towards Lu Wei. A purple spirit body is indeed extraordinary. You've actually advanced to a second-grade human supreme. Ningyu. Lu Wei squeezed out a smile. Thank you for taking care of me all this time. How could the change in Lu Wei's expression escape Ningyu's eyes? What exactly is going on? Ningyu's face turned cold as he asked in a deep voice. It's nothing, Lu Wei said. Speak. Ningyu's tone was unquestionable. Some information suddenly appeared in my head, and it's about my parents, Lu Wei said after a moment of silence. About your parents? Ningyu was taken aback. Aren't your parents in the capital? Why, at this point, Ningyu stopped abruptly. Lu Wei had a purple spirit body, so her parents were definitely not ordinary people. Lu Durong had already said that he was not Lu Wei's biological father. Just tell me if you need anything. As long as I can help, I will definitely help, Ningyu said. I'll definitely tell you if there's anything. With a smile, Lu Wei swaggered out of the secret chamber. Looking at Lu Wei's back, Ningyu felt that she was hiding something from him. However, since Lu Wei didn't want to talk about it, Ningyu didn't ask. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu left the room with Jean Tuesday outside the secret chamber. Sage Spirit Void and Pil Guzi stood side by side. Seeing Ningyu and Lu Wei come out together, Revered Spirit Su said in surprise, Ningyu, where's your father? Let's go. Ningyu said calmly. Gone? Revered Spirit Su's eyes widened. He didn't leave behind any words? Revered Spirit Su had many things to ask Ning Hai. Now that Ning Hai had left, who could he ask? He did. Father told me that before reaching the Earth Supreme level, I shouldn't set foot in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple. Ningyu didn't hide anything. Revered Spirit Su's face darkened. What kind of words was that? The Supreme Nine Purities Temple was heavily guarded, especially the place where Mu Yunshan was imprisoned. It was extremely dangerous. Not to mention Earth Supremes, even Sky Supremes wouldn't dare barge in. Over the next 3 to 4 days, Ningyu and Revered Spirit Su spent 2 days recovering to their peak condition. The remaining 2 days were spent traversing the Grand Xia's borders. Only Ningyu, Revered Spirit Su, and Dan Guzi knew about this operation. Everyone else was recuperating in the Imperial family. Since they were going to leave for the Thousand Leaf Empire in a few days, Ningyu wanted to eradicate all hostile forces in the Grand Xia. The Corpse Sect and the Blood God Palace would all be uprooted. I didn't know before, but now that I did, I was shocked. 2 days later, in the Imperial family's conference hall, panting, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi said, These people have hidden themselves quite deeply. After 2 days of searching, all the experts from the Corpse Sect and the Blood God Palace hidden in the Grand Xia were killed without exception. There was even an unexpected harvest. There were 2 5th-grade Mortal Supremes from the Sacred Heaven Sect hidden in a city, a 3rd-grade Mortal Supremes from the Supreme Nine Purities Temple hidden in Ivory City, and 2 7th-grade Mortal Supremes from the God Emperor Palace hidden in Tianxian City. After interrogation, it was found that these people were ordered to cause trouble for Ningyu. Without a doubt, Ningyu sent them to heaven after forcing them to reveal the mastermind. Ningyu, what do you plan to do now? Do you want to stay in the Grand Xia or go out to gain experience? Asked Revered Spirit Su. With Ningyu's strength, it'll be hard for him to advance in the Grand Xia. In my opinion, it's better to go out and adventure, said Dan Guzi. I heard that the Pil Creation Continent is going to hold an alchemy conference. Why don't you come with me to try your luck? The Pil Creation Continent? You're wanted by the Alchemy Union of the Pil Creation Continent. Going there with you is no different from courting death, said Revered Spirit Su. Dan Guzi was a bit embarrassed. Revered Spirit Su was really touching a sore spot. Wasn't he wanted by the Alchemy Union of the Pill Creation Continent? What's the big deal? At most, he could use a disguise art to change his appearance. His disguise art had already reached the peak of perfection. Ordinary cultivators wouldn't be able to see through it. Stop arguing. Let's go to the Pill Creation Continent, said Ningyu. No. The Pill Creation Continent is too dangerous, said Revered Spirit Su hastily. He even viciously glared at Dan Guzzi as if to say that it was his rotten idea. Dan Guzzi had an urge to cry. I was just saying. The Pill Creation Continent is far more dangerous than you can imagine. Let's go somewhere else. For example, the Xianyue Continent's Alchemy Union's headquarters. There are many treasures and medicinal pills there that can help you increase your cultivation base. What are you thinking? What I meant was, let's go to the Pill Creation Continent's Thousand-Leaf Empire. Ningyu rolled his eyes. I'm not an idiot. How could I just barge into the Pill Creation Continent's Alchemy Union? Good, you're not going to the Alchemy Union, wait. Pill Guzzi patted his chest. Before he could completely relax, he said, the Divine Emperor Palace is within the Thousand-Leaf Empire. Going there is no different from throwing your life away. After spending a few days with Ningyu, Dan Guzzi had already learned about Ningyu's background and family situation. He knew that the Divine Emperor Palace wanted to send people to kill Ningyu. The Divine Emperor Palace's headquarters was in the Thousand-Leaf Empire. If Ningyu went there now, it would be even more dangerous than going to the Alchemy Union's headquarters. What's there to be afraid of? Suddenly, a cold snort rang out from outside the conference hall. Then, a beautiful woman walked in with large strides. Xialan? No, you're the palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace. Ningyu frowned slightly when he saw the woman who had suddenly appeared. After which, he said, you've taken control of Xialan's body again. Ningyu, don't give me that. You promised me that as long as I helped you deal with Dangu, you would teach me the soul attraction art, said the palace master coldly. I did promise to teach you the soul attraction art, but it hasn't been a month yet. Ningyu shrugged as if he was a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. In any case, he had said that as long as Xialan helped him deal with Dangu, he would teach her the soul attraction art in a month. Chapter 1255. Chapter 1255. Demon Accompanying Grass. You! The palace master gnashed her teeth in anger. She had originally thought that Ningyu would teach her the soul attraction technique after she survived the calamity, and then use a secret technique to heavily injure the mysterious expert of the Flower Palace. Who would have thought that Ningyu wouldn't teach her the soul attraction art? That infuriated her. Ningyu, you're going back on your word. The palace master's chest heaved, and her breasts bobbed up and down. Seeing this, Reverend Spirit Void and Pill Guzzi turned their heads. Senior Spirit Su, Pill Guzzi, why did you turn around? Ningyu asked Reverend Spiritual Su and the others with a puzzled look. Cough, cough. Sage Spirit Su coughed dryly. You guys chat first. I suddenly remembered something. As he spoke, Supremacy Lingshu moved his feet, intending to leave the meeting hall. All right, I won't joke with you. Waving his hand, Ningyu said, my next destination has already been decided. It's the Thousand-Leaf Empire. You want to go to the Thousand-Leaf Empire? Take a good look at yourself. The palace master grunted coldly and said, the Emperor Palace is deeply rooted in the Thousand-Leaf Empire, and even my palace is unable to shake their foundation, let alone all of you. Who said I'm going to the Thousand-Leaf Empire to cause trouble for the Emperor Palace? Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the palace lord with interest. Can't I go to the Thousand Leaves Empire to sightsee? All right. Go sightseeing in the Thousand Leaf Empire. Forgive me for not accompanying you. The palace master's goal this time was to ask Ningyu for the soul attraction art. She could sense that if she didn't restrain the mysterious expert, her body would slowly be eroded away. Only by relying on the soul attraction technique to heavily injure the mysterious powerhouse could she survive and buy herself more time to escape. I originally wanted to tell someone about the soul attraction art, Ningyu said with a sigh. You. The palace master almost jumped up in anger. Taking a deep breath, Palatial Lord Centauria tried her best to calm down. After she calmed down, the more she thought about it, the more she felt that she couldn't fall for Ningyu's tricks. Ningyu wanted to go to the Thousand Leaves Empire, and there were two great sects in the Thousand Leaves Empire, the Hundred Flowers Palace and the Emperor Divine Palace. She could forget about the Emperor Divine Palace. Ningyu definitely wanted to extract more benefits from her and let her lead the way for him. With this in mind, Palatial Lord Centauria found a chair to sit on and chose to close her eyes to rest. It's not that I don't want to teach you the soul guidance technique, but the soul guidance technique has certain limitations. Ningyu decided not to tease Palatial Lord Centauria. After sorting out his thoughts, Ningyu said, "The soul attraction technique is a kind of soul attack technique that specializes in bombarding the body from a distance. In ancient times, some powerful beings used this kind of soul attack technique to kill people from a distance without leaving a trace. Not everyone can cultivate the soul induction technique. At the very least, you can't cultivate it in your current state." "How can I cultivate the soul induction technique?" asked Palatial Lord Centauria anxiously. There were two reasons why Palatial Lord Centauria was so anxious. First, that mysterious expert was about to break free, and her body was growing weaker and weaker. Second, the spiritual strength she had left in Xielan's mind sea was growing weaker and weaker. It could only last 15 days at most. After that, it would completely disappear. In other words, if she couldn't cultivate the soul induction technique as soon as possible, she would never be able to do so. How could the Centauria Palace master not be anxious in such a situation? If you want to cultivate the soul induction technique, you have to refine the soul induction pill, said Ningyu. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and refine the soul induction pill, said Palatial Lord Centauria. Although the soul induction pill is only a rank 8 pill, it's extremely difficult to refine. Before Ningyu could say anything, Dan Guzi explained, to refine the soul induction pill, you not only need a powerful spiritual perception, but you also need a vigorous internal energy. Of course, these things aren't difficult for ordinary alchemists. But the most important thing is that the pill formula for the soul induction pill hasn't appeared on the continent in 20 years. What? Hearing Dan Guzi's words, Palatial Lord Centauria collapsed into a chair. She had bitterly waited for the soul induction technique, but it had been defeated by the soul induction pill. She was extremely unwilling. Ningyu, you definitely have a way to refine the soul luring pill. You definitely have the pill formula to refine the soul luring pill. The palace master's spirits were aroused when she saw Ningyu, and she spoke. Swish. Pil Guzi and Venerable Spirit Void also turned to look at Ningyu. That was especially true of Pil Guzi, whose face was filled with anticipation. It had been 20 years since the soul induction pill had appeared on the continent. As long as Ningyu knew the method to refine it, he would definitely be an honored guest no matter where he went. In front of everyone's gazes, Ningyu nodded slightly. I truly do know the method to refine the soul induction pill, but before the Palatial Lord Centauria and Pil Guzi could get excited, Ningyu continued. Refining the soul induction pill requires an extremely precious medicinal ingredient. The Grand Xia doesn't have it. What medicinal ingredient? Asked Pil Guzi and Palatial Lord Centauria. Demon accompanying grass, said Ningyu. Demon accompanying grass? Palatial Lord Centauria and Pil Guzi looked at each other, both seeing the doubt in each other's eyes. Clearly, they had never heard of the demon accompanying grass. The so-called demon accompanying grass is a kind of medicinal herb that grows near the caves of demonic beasts, explained Ningyu. The demon accompanying grass only has one use, and that is to refine the soul induction pill. No wonder I've never heard of it. So it can only be used to refine the soul induction pill. Pil Guzi sighed. As a peak 8th rank alchemist, he had basically heard of all medicinal ingredients, but he had never heard of the demon accompanying grass. When Ningyu explained its use, he finally understood. Not only did he not know of the demon accompanying grass, there were probably many alchemists who didn't know of it. The method to refine the soul induction pill had already been lost, so very few people knew of the demon accompanying grass. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and go find the demon accompanying grass. The palatial Lord Centauria rose to leave. The demon accompanying grass isn't so easy to find. 3 conditions must be met in order for it to grow. Ningyu shook his head. What conditions? Asked Pil Guzi. First, a place of een and cold. The demon accompanying grass prefers een and cold places. Ningyu explained. Second, the lair of a peak 9th rank mortal sovereign demonic beast. The aura emitted by a peak 9th rank mortal sovereign demonic beast is the best fertilizer for the demon accompanying grass. Only near a peak 9th rank mortal sovereign demonic beast will the demon accompanying grass flourish. And there's one more, said the palatial Lord Centauria. Blood-stained ground. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said these 3 words. What's a blood-stained ground? Asked Pil Guzi. It's very simple. A blood-stained ground is a place where a battle between earth or sky supremes took place. Their blood covered the entire ground. Ningyu gravely said, the blood of an earth or sky supremes can accelerate the growth of the demon accompanying grass. Chapter 1256. Chapter 1256. Thousand Leaf Mountain. Hearing Ningyu's words, Dan Guzi and the others all had grave expressions. Using the blood of a sky sovereign as fuel and growing beside a peak rank 9 sovereign's cave? Just thinking about it was a bit frightening. Picking the demon companion grass there? That was a joke. Ignoring whether or not they could find the bloodstained lands, even if they could, they wouldn't be able to take half a step there. I know a place that might fit the requirements of the bloodstained lands. Taking a deep breath, the palace master said, the 1,000-leaf mountain of the 1,000-leaf empire. I don't care about the 1,000-leaf mountain or the 10,000-leaf mountain. I'll leave the mission of finding the demon companion grass to you. If you can find it, I'll help you refine the soul attraction pill and teach you the soul attraction art. Ningyu shrugged. If you can't find the demon companion grass, don't even think about obtaining the soul attraction art from me. You! The palace master gnashed her teeth in anger. The soul force she had hidden in Xielan's mind sea could only last for 15 days at most. If she couldn't learn the soul attraction art within 15 days, not only would this soul force dissipate, but even her body would die. Just what do you want? Demanded the palace master coldly. If it weren't for Sovereign Spirit Su and Dan Guzi, she would have long since taught Ningyu a lesson. How could she possibly bow and scrape like this? Haha, I heard that the 100 Flowers Palace has many treasures and pills, as well as many high-grade martial technique. Ningyu smiled. I don't ask for much. As long as I help you refine the soul attraction pill, you have to let me choose 3 things from the 100 Flowers Palace. You're robbing me, raged the palace master. Forget it. Ningyu rolled his eyes. There's an ancient legend that when the demon companion grass appears, blood will appear. I don't want to get involved. Ningyu acted as if he had nothing to do with this matter, indicating that it had nothing to do with him. When the demon companion grass appeared, blood would appear. This wasn't Ningyu's perfunctory words. It truly existed. It was said that every time the demon accompanying grass appeared, it represented chaos and bloodshed. Without absolute benefits, Ningyu would definitely not step into the thousand-leaf ridge that Palatial Lord Centaurea mentioned. Palatial Lord Centaurea's expression was gloomy as she struggled internally. A long time passed before the palace master took a deep breath and said, "Ningyu, I agree to your request. So long as you're able to help me escape, then I'll allow you to choose 3 things from the Flower Palace." "You sure are smart." Ningyu looked at Palatial Lady Centaurea in surprise. Stealing a beam and replacing it with a pillar. Palatial Lord Centaurea was indeed very smart. She changed Ningyu's help in refining the soul-luring pill to helping her escape. Ningyu had already witnessed how powerful the mysterious expert who was entangled with Palatial Lord Centaurea was. It would be extremely difficult for him to help Palatial Lord Centaurea escape. "Don't push your luck," said Palatial Lady Centaurea in a deep voice. "I'm afraid of you." "Deal." Ningyu seemed to have made a huge decision, and he said, "We'll set out for Thousand Leaf Ridge tomorrow morning." Swish. Just as Ningyu said that, Palatial Mistress Centaurea stepped onto the ground and left the hall. Back in the palace, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi looked at each other. After a long while, Venerable Spirit Void said, "Ningyu, are you really going to the Thousand Leaf Empire?" "Yes." Ningyu's gaze was deep as he looked in the direction of the Thousand Leaf Empire. He muttered, "The tomb of a sky supreme must contain great opportunities. Let's go make some preparations." Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi bid farewell to Ningyu and left the conference hall. There was only 1 day left, and Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi didn't want to waste it. They left the conference hall and began to seriously make their preparations. After all, the journey to the Thousand Leaf Empire was extremely dangerous. The more they prepared, the better their chances of survival. Swish. Just at this moment, a figure flew over from outside the conference hall. The figure landed in front of Ningyu and said, "Ningyu, I want to leave the Grand Xia Kingdom." "You want to leave the Grand Xia Kingdom?" Hearing the words of that figure, Ningyu was slightly stunned, before he said, "Although you have a purple spiritual physique, your cultivation is only at grade 2 mortal sovereign. Furthermore, you've already been targeted by the Sacred Heaven sect of the Ice Domain. If you leave the Great Xia Kingdom, there's a high chance that you'll be ambushed." Lu Wei. The figure that suddenly appeared was none other than Lu Wei. In the past few days, Lu Wei hadn't appeared. No one knew where she went. But Ningyu knew that Lu Wei hadn't gone too far from the capital. She was cultivating in the dense forest outside the capital. It had to be said that the cultivation speed of a purple spirit body was indeed frighteningly fast. In just a few days, Lu Wei had already reached the peak of rank 2 human sovereign. She was only half a step away from advancing to rank 3 human sovereign. This kind of advancement speed was truly terrifying. "I have to leave the Grand Xia Kingdom. In the past few days, a place has been appearing in my mind," Lu Wei said solemnly. She didn't want to hide it from Ningyu. After all, Ningyu had helped her a lot. "Which place?" Ningyu asked. "Thousand Leaf Ridge," Lu Wei said solemnly. "You want to go to the Thousand Leaf Empire?" Ningyu's heart skipped a beat, but he didn't show it on his face. At the same time, Ningyu was very puzzled. The palace master of the 100 Flowers Palace said that the Thousand Leaf Ridge was extremely suitable for the blood-stained land. And that place appeared in Lu Wei's mind again. Could it be that a purple spirit body lineage expert died in the Thousand Leaf Ridge? Thinking of this, Ningyu couldn't remain calm. If a peerless purple spirit body lineage expert was really buried in the Thousand Leaf Ridge, then this trip to the Thousand Leaf Empire was destined to be extraordinary. He might even encounter endless dangers. If only a Sky Supreme expert had died in the Thousand Leaf Ridge, it wouldn't have caused such a huge reaction. But peerless purple spirit body lineage experts were different. Everyone wanted to dig up their graves and find a way to obtain the Bones of Supremacy. The Bones of Supremacy were rare treasures. It was enough to cause all the major forces to fight over them. "Yes, I want to go to the Thousand-Leaf Empire. Nodding, Lu Wei said, I can feel that there's something in the Thousand-Leaf Ridge of the Thousand-Leaf Empire calling out to me. It seems that a peerless purple spirit body lineage expert is really buried under the Thousand-Leaf Ridge. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said, I happen to be going to the Thousand-Leaf Empire too. Why don't we go together? You want to go to the Thousand-Leaf Empire too? Lu Wei looked at Ningyu suspiciously. She didn't believe that Ningyu was really going to the Thousand-Leaf Empire. From Lu Wei's point of view, Ningyu was worried about her safety. Otherwise, he wouldn't go to a place like the Thousand-Leaf Empire. After all, the Thousand-Leaf Empire was hundreds of thousands of miles away from the Great Xia Kingdom. It would take a long time to travel there. Why would I lie to you? Ningyu was a little speechless. He was going to the Thousand-Leaf Empire anyway. There was no need to lie to Lu Wei. After explaining to Lu Wei for a long time, Ningyu almost brought up the 100 Flowers Palace mistress to convince Lu Wei. In the following day, Ningyu asked Lu Wei a few more things about the purple spirit body, such as the memories in her mind and her family. Perhaps afraid that Ningyu would be in danger, Lu Wei selectively told Ningyu some secret. Swish. Chapter 1257. Chapter 1257. Fire Cloud Eagle Whoosh. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight rose, the space outside the capital suddenly split open, and several figures appeared. Ningyu was in the middle of the crowd, shining like stars around the moon. Beside him, Supremacy Spiritual Su, Dan Guzi, Palace Master Centauria, Sword of Evil, Jinan, Supremacy Talisman Marshal, Yunmu, and others stood side by side. Obviously, these people were going to the Qin Empire with Ningyu. The reason why Ningyu made such a big scene was because he wanted to draw away the cultivators hiding in the surroundings, not letting them harm the Great Xia Kingdom. After all, the target of the corpse sect was him, not Mu Feng and the others. Are we still going or not? Seeing Ningyu bidding farewell to everyone, the Dark Emperor rolled his eyes impatiently. Dean Mu, if there are experts questioning you, just tell them the truth. Tell them that I'm going to the Qin Empire. Ningyu warned Mu Feng, telling him not to make unnecessary sacrifices. This, all right. Mu Feng wanted to refuse at first, but he could only give up when he thought of the strength of Supremacy Spiritual Su and the others. That's a 9th-grade human supreme being. He's exceptionally powerful and exceedingly powerful. With Supremacy Spiritual Su in front of Ningyu, Mu Feng was still very assured. Let's go. Ningyu waved his hand and tore space apart, disappearing in an instant. Swish, swish, swish. Lu Wei, the Dark Emperor, Supremacy Spiritual Su, Dan Guzi, Palace Master Centauria, Jinan, Sword of Evil, Supremacy Talisman Marshal, and Yunmu didn't dare to be slow. They quickly tore space apart and followed Ningyu. They're destined to soar through the 9 heavens and roam the world. Mu Feng stared at the direction Ningyu and the others disappeared in, speechless for a long time. In the end, he left behind these words and returned to the capital. Crack! Not long after Ningyu and the others disappeared, inside a palace in the headquarters of the corpse sect, an old man crushed the jade cup in his hand and said in a deep voice, "The target is the Thousand-Leaf Empire. Surround and kill them." At the top of the Blood God Palace, a middle-aged man paced back and forth in his room. But, not long after, a message was transmitted into his mind. A cold glint shot out from the middle-aged man's eyes as a chilling voice rang out from his mouth. Kill! Emperor Divine Palace, an ancient and mysterious forbidden area. A young man dressed in green curled up the corner of his lips and said darkly, "Interesting. There's a path to heaven but you don't want to take it. There's no door to hell but you want to barge in." In a certain luxurious room in the Supreme Nine Purities Temple, an old man kept his eyes closed as he tapped his fingers on the table. Dong dong dong. Suddenly, the old man opened his eyes and said coldly, "You've finally awakened? Hee hee, now this is interesting." Ningyu did not know about the reactions of the four great sects in the Sky Fiend region. After they left the Great Xia Kingdom, they headed straight for the Thousand Leaf Empire. The Thousand Leaf Empire was located in the Pill Formation continent, which was very far from the Mystic Moon continent. Even though Ningyu and the others were all supremes, they could not reach the Thousand Leaf Empire in a short time. Along the way, Ningyu and the others stopped from time to time and rented a means of transportation in the Fire Cloud Nation. A Fire Cloud Eagle. The Fire Cloud Eagle was huge. When it spread its wings, it was more than 10 meters long. One Fire Cloud Eagle was enough to carry Ningyu and the others. Damn it, I didn't know that the Great Xia Kingdom is such a small place. It doesn't even have an ancient beast like the Fire Cloud Eagle. On the Fire Cloud Eagle's back, the Dark Emperor could not help but grumble. Everyone looked at the Dark Emperor with disdain and distanced themselves from him. Among everyone present, only the Dark Emperor was a frog at the bottom of a well. Whether it was 9th-grade human supremes like Venerable Spirit Su and Danguzi, or low-grade human supremes like Yun Mu and Venerable Talisman Marshall, they all knew that the continent was very big. If it wasn't for various reasons, they definitely would not have appeared in the Great Xia Kingdom and become acquainted with Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. The Fire Cloud Nation is 300,000 kilometers away from the Thousand Leaf Empire. With the Fire Cloud Eagle's speed, we will reach the Thousand Leaf Empire in 3 days at most. The Palace Master said from the back of the Fire Cloud Eagle. Once we reach the Thousand Leaf Empire, we will immediately go to the Thousand Leaf Ridge. Because they did not have a flying beast like the Fire Cloud Eagle, they spent a full 5 days from the Great Xia Kingdom to the Fire Cloud Nation. Even if they rented a Fire Cloud Eagle in the Fire Cloud Nation, they would still need 3 days to reach the Thousand Leaf Empire. The Palace Master knew very well that she only had 15 days. She had wasted a day in the Great Xia Kingdom, which meant that she had wasted 5 days on the way to the Fire Cloud Nation. If she wasted another 3 days on the back of the Fire Cloud Eagle, she would only have 6 days left. In 6 days, she not only had to find the Demon Echo Grass, but she also had to refine the Soul Attraction Pill and cultivate the Soul Attraction Art. Palatial Lord Centauria did not wish to waste even a second. Let's talk when we get there. Ningyu had an emotionless expression as he said, "Tell me about the Thousand Leaf Ridge's situation first." Ningyu didn't want to enter the Thousand Leaf Ridge foolishly. After all, he knew nothing about the Thousand Leaf Ridge. Under such circumstances, who would want to take the risk? Putting aside the fact that the Palace Master promised him 3 items, even if she gave him 10 or 100 items, he would have to consider it carefully. The Thousand Leaf Ridge is an ominous place. The Palace Master might be anxious, but she still explained, in the Thousand Leaf Empire, there are a total of 3 ominous places: the Thousand Leaf Ridge, the Devil Cliff Mountain, and the Rakshasa Cave. Each of these 3 places is more dangerous than the other. 20 years ago, there were Earth Supremes who ventured deep into the 3 ominous places. Without exception, none of them came out. After so many years, there were countless people who ventured into the 3 ominous places, but no one dared to step into the deepest part of the 3 ominous places. They only dared to move around the periphery. Hearing the Palace Master's explanation, the Dark Emperor nearly fell from the back of the Fire Cloud Hawk. The Dark Emperor furiously glared at the Palace Master and said, "Since the Thousand Leaf Ridge is so dangerous, why do you want us to go there? Even Earth Supremes can't come out, so what's the difference between us and cannon fodder?" You can't put it that way. As the saying goes, there are great opportunities in the ominous places. We might be able to obtain great opportunities in the Thousand Leaf Ridge. The Palace Master shook her head. Great opportunities, my ass. We'll wait for you outside when you go to the Thousand Leaf Ridge. The Dark Emperor was a cunning person, and the Palace Master didn't seem like a good person to him. It was a place that even Earth Supremes would die in, so they probably couldn't even be cannon fodder. Stop arguing. We'll talk about it when we reach the Thousand-Leaf Empire. Ningyu first glared at the Dark Emperor before coldly saying, "At that time, I will make my decision based on the situation, and I will not joke around with my life." The first sentence was directed at the Dark Emperor, while the second sentence was directed at the Palace Master of the 100 Flowers Palace. Ningyu had a feeling that the Palace Master didn't tell him the truth about the Thousand-Leaf Ridge. However, they were very far away from the Thousand-Leaf Ridge, so it wasn't good for Ningyu to flare up, so he could only endure it. Everything could wait until they reached the Thousand-Leaf Empire. If you want to scheme against me, then I'll let you know what it means to scheme. Chapter 1258. Transverse Valley. From Fire Cloud Nation to Thousand-Leaf Empire, there was a path that one had to pass, and that was Transverse Valley. Transverse Valley was a huge canyon, about 200,000 miles away from Fire Cloud Nation, and 100,000 miles away from Thousand-Leaf Empire. As long as one could pass through Transverse Valley, there would be a vast expanse ahead. Transverse Valley's entrance was relatively wide, and could accommodate dozens of people at the same time. However, the exit was extremely narrow, and could only accommodate one person at a time. One man could hold the pass against 10,000. Screech. In the sky above the canyon, a huge bird circled, screeched a few times, and then swooped down. In front of Transverse Valley, the Fire Cloud Eagle put down Ningyu and the others, then flapped its huge wings and flew towards Fire Cloud Nation. "Damn it, mixed-haired bird, where are you going?" Seeing the Fire Cloud Eagle fly away, the Dark Emperor roared. The Fire Cloud Eagle was their means of transportation in Fire Cloud Nation. In order to rent the Fire Cloud Eagle, they paid a huge price. According to the original agreement, the Fire Cloud Eagle was to send them to Thousand-Leaf Empire. Who would have thought that halfway, the Fire Cloud Eagle would leave them behind and escape? "You better not let me see you again, or else I'll roast you and eat you," the Dark Emperor said angrily. "All right, Transverse Valley is very narrow, and the depths can only accommodate one person at a time. The Fire Cloud Eagle's huge body can't pass through Transverse Valley." Ningyu waved his hand and said, "Everyone rest here for a while, and enter after recovering to peak condition. I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. I have some understanding of the Hengduan Valley. It's just that the terrain here is dangerous." "It's not dangerous at all for high-leveled sovereigns like us," said the palatial mistress solemnly. Palace Master Centauria was very anxious. She wanted to rush to Thousand-Leaf Empire and think of a way to enter Thousand-Leaf Ridge. There was less and less time left for her, and if she didn't hurry, it would be too late. "If you want to go, you go first. We need to rest anyway." Before Ningyu said anything, the Dark Emperor rolled his eyes and found a flat place to sit down. "Palace Master Centauria, I know you're very anxious, but I have to remind you that Transverse Valley isn't that simple," Ningyu said. For some reason, after arriving at this place, Ningyu felt a little uneasy. It seemed that there was something terrifying in the Transverse Canyon. Shaking his head and trying his best to dispel this thought, Ningyu sat down beside the Dark Emperor and closed his eyes to rest. Their side wasn't weak. Even if they encountered a late-stage 9th-grade human supreme, they would be able to contend against it and even kill it. "Damn it. Since you're all afraid, I'll go ahead and scout the path." Cursing inwardly, the palace mistress of the 100 Flowers Palace tapped the ground with her toes and instantly entered the Transverse Canyon, quickly disappearing. Ningyu's face turned a little ugly as he watched the palatial mistress disappear. Ningyu wanted to rest for a period of time, but since the palatial mistress had charged in, there was no need for Ningyu to stay any longer. He had to follow her. Palatial Palace Master Centauria's death wasn't a problem, but nothing could happen to Xialan. This was because this body belonged to Xialan. It was only temporarily controlled by Palatial Lord Centauria. After all, Xialan had helped him before. He didn't want to owe her a favor. Whoosh, whoosh. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor entered the Transverse Canyon. Palatial mistress? After traveling through the Transverse Canyon for about 10 minutes, Ning Yu and the others saw a familiar figure floating in the air not far away. Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yun Mu were a little puzzled as they muttered, "Did the palace mistress discover something? Why is she hovering in the sky?" As they spoke, Venerable Talisman Marshal and Yun Mu moved their feet. "Hold it!" Just when Venerable Talisman Marshal and the rest took 2 steps forward, Ning Yu grabbed onto them and solemnly said, "The situation is urgent. You guys leave the Transverse Canyon first. Lu Wei, you leave with Venerable Talisman Marshal and the rest." Thereafter, Ning Yu turned to Lu Wei and said, "Wait for us to deal with the trouble before you guys enter." "Deal with the trouble? Haha, do you guys have that ability?" Before Ning Yu finished speaking, a faint voice resounded from the sky. Sizzle! Sizzle! Suddenly, space ruptured and several figures dashed out of the void, surrounding Ning Yu and the others in the middle. Ning Yu's face instantly turned dark. He had guessed that he would be ambushed, but he never expected so many people to ambush him. There were roughly 40 to 50 cultivators in the surroundings. Among them, there were 26th grade sovereigns, 10 7th grade sovereigns, 5 8th grade sovereigns, 4 initial phase 9th grade sovereigns, 2 middle phase 9th grade sovereigns, and 1 late phase 9th grade sovereign. This formation was enough to destroy the heavens and earth and sweep through many large sections. "Why are you hiding? Come out." Taking a step forth, Ning Yu unleashed his aura. His gaze pierced through the crowd and fell onto a gray-clothed elder. Ning Yu's senses weren't weak, so he could naturally tell that the one who spoke was the gray-clothed elder. The gray-clothed elder's cultivation had reached the terrifying late phase 9th grade sovereign realm. Furthermore, he was a pinnacle late phase 9th grade sovereign realm. He was only half a step away from the pinnacle 9th grade sovereign realm. Hee. Heroes indeed come from the young, but it's a pity that you're destined to die today. The gray-clothed elder smiled and walked out of the crowd. "First, let me introduce myself. I'm Shi Xiao from the Corpse Yin sect." Shi Xiao looked at Ning Yu as if she was looking at a dead man and said. This time, Shi Xiao was ordered to intercept Ning Yu. Failure was not an option. In order to complete the mission 100%, Shi Xiao even borrowed a supreme grade royal flying sword from the Corpse Yin sect's treasure vault. Sirius Sword. Sirius Sword was a supreme grade royal flying sword. In the hands of a late phase 9th grade sovereign corpse puppet, it could exert great power. With a flick of her wrist, the Sirius Sword appeared in her hand. Holding the Sirius Sword, Shi Xiao looked like she could defend against 10,000 enemies by herself. Corpse Yin sect. Hearing Shi Xiao's words, not only was Ning Yu furious, but even the Dark Emperor roared, "We didn't go looking for you, but you came looking for us instead. This black dog of yours is quite plump. It just so happens that we're on a long journey. Wouldn't it be nice to have a black dog dinner tonight?" Shi Xiao said with a smile. "Shi Xiao, you've crossed the line." At this moment, the Palace Master of the 100 Flowers Palace spoke. The Palace Master of the Flower Palace turned around and instantly appeared by Ning Yu's side. She said in a low voice, "We're only 50,000 kilometers away from the Thousand Leaf Empire, and the Thousand Leaf Empire is controlled by the Flower Palace and Divine Emperor Palace. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the Flower Palace and Divine Emperor Palace for ambushing us here?" "I'm so scared." Shi Xiao pretended to be afraid. Then, she changed the topic and said coldly, "To tell you the truth, ever since the Transverse Canyon, the Blood God Palace, the Emperor Palace, and even the 9 Purities Palace have set up checkpoints. Everyone's goal is clear, and that's to kill you." Chapter 1259. Chapter 1259. Chapter 1259 Provoked to Anger, Senior Spirit Void, Dan Guzi, I'll leave those 2 rank 9 mid-mortal sovereigns to you. Ignoring the corpse puppet's cold words, Ningyu began assigning tasks. Sword of Evil, Palace Master Centauria, I'll leave the remaining 8th and 7th grade human sovereigns to you. With a cold gaze, Ningyu stared at the 26th grade sovereigns and said, leave these trash to me. What? How dare you call me trash? A mere middle phase 5th grade sovereign dares to be so arrogant? Looks like I'll have to teach you guys a lesson. Attack. Everyone attack together. Kill him. Ningyu's unbridled words had infuriated many 6th grade sovereigns. They were all top geniuses in the corpse sect, so when had they ever been bullied like this? Under their rage, all the 6th grade sovereigns summoned their magical treasures and flying swords, eager to kill Ningyu. Not bad, not bad. You have character. While everyone was getting restless, the corpse puppet did not make a move. Instead, it looked at Ningyu with interest and said, it would be a pity to kill someone like you. Let's refine you into a corpse puppet. Xiao. As she spoke, Shi Xiao held the serious sword in her hand and dashed forward. Shi Xiao did not forget his purpose of coming here, which was to kill Ningyu. As long as he could kill Ningyu, everything would be fine. The higher-ups of the corpse sect would even reward him with the Heavenly Wolf sword. If they failed, what awaited them would be endless fury. Therefore, Shi Xiao did not hold back with this move. She used all of her strength. His essence chi poured into the celestial wolf sword, and immediately, the celestial wolf sword shone brightly, becoming several times larger. Kill him! Holding the celestial wolf sword, the corpse puppet slashed out a sword light in the air. Roar! A huge wolf head appeared on the celestial wolf sword, roaring as it charged at Ningyu. Not good, it's the phantom of the sky wolf. Seeing the giant wolf head charging at Ningyu, Venerable Spirit Void and Pil Guzi's expressions changed, and they wanted to go help. Damned old man, your opponents are us. Before revered Spirit Void and Dan Guzi could help, they were stopped by 2 rank 9 mid-human sovereigns. At first, Lord Spirit Void and Pil Guzi had wanted to fight with all their might to force back the rank 9 mid-human sovereign. As soon as they made their move, the other 4 early-stage 9th grade human supremes joined the battle, forcing them to retreat again and again. Although Venerable Spirit Void was a mid-rank 9 mortal sovereign, Dan Guzi was only an early rank 9 mortal sovereign. His power was limited. If they joined forces, they could confront 2 middle phase 9th grade sovereigns. But with the addition of 4 initial phase 9th grade sovereigns, the pressure on Venerable Spirit Su and the rest increased, and they nearly lost their heads a few times. Red Demon Sword, destroy all forms, open. Seeing that the wolf head was about to reach him, Ningyu hastily took out the Red Demon Sword and slashed at the wolf head. Haha, you want to use an ordinary flying sword to cut my sky wolf phantom? You're simply fucking hell. The corner of Shi Zhao's mouth rose into a faint smile, as if she could already see Ningyu dying to the sky wolf phantom. However, Shi Zhao's words hadn't finished resounding through the air when she stopped abruptly. Crack! Shi Zhao noticed that the red flying sword in Ningyu's hand had pierced straight into the head of the sky wolf phantom. In the next instant, the phantom's head split apart. Poochie! The terrifying backlash sent the corpse puppet flying several meters away. Her heart sank to the bottom of the valley. What flying sword is this? It's so powerful! Shi Xiao stood up with great difficulty, her face filled with rage. Ningyu, you've completely angered me. No one in the world can save you. How noisy! With a smear of disdain, Ningyu flicked his storage ring, and a cold light shot out from it. Swish! Swish! The cold light was swift, and in the blink of an eye, it had arrived before Shi Xiao. Crack! The cold light clenched her right fist and smashed into Shi Zhao's chest. A crisp sound rang out. At least 3 of Shi Zhao's ribs were broken, and she spurted out a mouthful of blood. What the hell is this? How can it be so powerful? Shi Xiao hurriedly used a secret technique to reconnect the ribs on her chest. In Shi Zhao's view, the reason why Ningyu could break the Sky Wolf Phantom was purely due to luck, and there was nothing to be afraid of. The only thing that shocked Shi Xiao was the figure that appeared afterward. Jin Tu. At this critical moment, Ningyu took out Jin Tu without holding back. Shi Xiao was a late-phase 9th grade sovereign, and on Ningyu's side, only Jin Tu could be his opponent. Ningyu understood the principle of capturing the leader first, so he decided to join forces with Jin Tu to capture Shi Xiao. Ah! The roars coming from the mouth of the corpse puppet were extremely sinister. Ningyu, I'm going to tear you to pieces today. After roaring, Shi Xiao charged at Ningyu with the Sky Wolf's sword in her hand. Let's attack too. Seeing Shi Xiao attack, the rest of the cultivators all moved out. For a moment, the area was filled with golden light, and all kinds of spells were cast. Standing in the center of the battlefield, especially facing the most powerful corpse puppet of the Corpse Een sect, Ningyu felt the pressure. If it wasn't for Jin Tu's help, Ningyu would have already been killed by Shi Xiao. We can't continue like this, Ningyu said in a deep voice while relying on Jin Tu to fight Shi Xiao. Although Shi Xiao's physical strength was not as good as Jin Tu's, her spells and martial skills far surpassed Jin Tu's. According to Ningyu's guess, Shi Xiao's real battle strength was far higher than the evil Dragon Valley Masters. I can't fight her head-on for now. Ningyu's expression was extremely solemn. An expert at Shi Xiao's level with the top-grade Emperor Sky Wolf sword was enough to reach the pinnacle of battle strength. Fighting Shi Xiao was no different from asking a tiger for its hide. There was bound to be no good result. I'll break your wings first. Ningyu rolled his eyes and temporarily left Shi Xiao to Jin Tuesday. As for himself, he joined the other side of the battlefield. 10,000 Ghosts Holy Flag. Ningyu didn't want to waste even the slightest bit of time. Before he even reached Supremacy Spirit Void and Danguzi, he took out the 10,000 Ghosts Holy Flag and smashed it towards an early rank 9 human sovereign. Insignificant skill. It was obvious that this early 9th grade human supreme didn't take Ningyu seriously. Curling his lips in disdain, this late-stage 9th grade human supreme abandoned Sage Spirit Su and Danguzi to attack Ningyu. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to take it. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Looking at the incoming early-stage 9th grade human supreme, the corner of Ningyu's mouth rose. He raised his palm and smashed it forward. Crack! An extremely clear, muffled sound resounded in the area. Ningyu rubbed his slightly swollen fist and said angrily, "What a cheap wretch! How can it be so hard?" Being mocked by Ningyu in front of so many people, the early-stage 9th grade human supreme couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. "You even broke a few of my ribs, and you say my bones are hard?" The early-stage 9th grade human supreme was furious. He wasn't as tough as Shi Xiao, who could use a secret technique to reconnect his broken ribs. Chapter 1260. Retreat. Ningyu, you've completely infuriated me. I'm going to chop you into pieces. The early-stage 9th grade human supreme was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He, an early-stage 9th grade human supreme, had actually lost to a mid-stage 5th grade human supreme, and it was a crushing defeat at that. Where would he put his face if word of this got out? Therefore, in the heart of this initial 9th grade human supreme being, he was determined to kill Ningyu even if he had to pay the price of blood. Noisy! Ningyu wouldn't show any mercy. If you want to kill me, then you should be prepared to be killed. Recalling the Myriad Ghosts flag, Ningyu injected the Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness into it and threw it out again. Roar! Wherever the Myriad Ghosts flag passed, the sky changed color and the wind and clouds gathered. All sorts of screams came from the Myriad Ghosts flag. What the hell is that? Hearing these voices, the 9th grade initial human supreme felt his hair stand on end, and he shuddered in fear. It's not a ghost. It's something that will take your life. Ningyu's words were like the god of death, ringing in the early-stage 9th grade human supreme's ears. Oh no! Suddenly, the eyes of the ninth-grade initial human sovereign shrank. He stomped on the ground and retreated rapidly. However, it was already too late for this initial phase ninth-grade human supreme being to retreat. Whoosh! A cold light shot out from the myriad ghosts' flag and penetrated the early-stage ninth-grade human supreme's mind. Rumble! Not long after, the early-stage ninth-grade human supreme's body swelled up and exploded. Swish! The self-destruction of the early-stage ninth-grade human supreme silenced the entire area. Both sides looked at Ningyu in the middle of the battlefield and the scattered flesh fragments in front of him. Their eyes almost fell out of their sockets. Especially the cultivators of the corpse insect. Their pupils shrank and their hair stood on end. What kind of monster was Ningyu? How could he get rid of an early-stage ninth-grade human supreme so quickly? On the surface, Ningyu didn't seem to have used his full strength. Ningyu, good job. The Dark Emperor patted Ningyu's shoulder and said loudly. The Dark Emperor had advanced to the early-stage fourth-grade supreme martial artist. On top of that, he was one of the 5 absolute geniuses and possessed the bloodline of the purple-gold sky-devouring dog. Just now, he had held up a ninth-grade initial-stage human sovereign. Although he didn't manage to kill him, everyone knew that it was only a matter of time before that ninth-grade initial-stage human sovereign was killed. This is too much. On the corpse insect's side, a ninth-grade intermediate human supreme said coldly. This ninth-grade intermediate human supreme was called Gang, the second strongest expert of the corpse insect. If it hadn't been for Ningyu's interference, Corpse Gang would have long since killed Dan Guzi and Spirit Void. After Ningyu's interference, he had lost the best chance to kill Venerable Lingshu. If you want to fight, let's fight. What's the use of arguing? Ningyu's eyes were like torches as he slowly swept his gaze over the corpse insect's experts. Due to Ningyu's terrifying battle prowess, many of the corpse insect's experts lowered their heads when he stared at them. But soon, all the corpse insect's experts shifted their gazes to Shao, wanting to listen to his opinion. Whether to fight or leave, it was all up to Shao. Ningyu, you're very strong, far stronger than I imagined. Being stared at by so many people, Shao took a step forward and said coldly, "But if you think you can repel us like this, then I have to say that you're too naive. The reason why we dared to encircle you here is because we're fully prepared." Then, the corpse puppet took out a storage bag from her bosom and threw it on the ground. Rumble! The storage bag shattered, and a huge object appeared in everyone's sight. Good. I didn't expect Elder Shao to bring this beast puppet out. With this beast puppet, how can Ningyu and the others not die? We don't need to do anything. We can leave everything to the beast puppet. With the appearance of the huge beast puppet, the corpse insect's side cheered and became very lively. As for Ningyu's side, his face was full of worry. This beast puppet was too powerful, so powerful that no one had any thoughts of resisting it. Peak late stage 9th grade sovereign. The beast puppet's aura had reached the peak late stage 9th grade sovereign realm, even stronger than Shao. One Shao was enough to give Ningyu a headache, not to mention another one that was even more powerful than Shao. Senior Spirit Su, I'll stall Shao and the beast puppet. You lead everyone through the transverse canyon. Ningyu's expression was solemn as he sent a soul message to Sage Spirit Su. What about you? Sage Spirit Su hurriedly asked. He was very worried about leaving Ningyu alone. Don't worry, we'll meet in the capital of the Thousand Leaf Empire. Smiling at Sage Spirit Su, Ningyu suddenly threw out the myriad ghost sacred flag and roared, "Old Shao, if you have the ability, then let's fight 300 rounds." After taking out the myriad ghost sacred flag, Ningyu's body slowly rose into the air like a god of war. Ningyu's actions, combined with the dangerous terrain of the transverse canyon, truly gave off the feeling that one man could hold the pass against 10,000 enemies. Let's go. Sage Spirit Su knew that he would only be cannon fodder if he stayed, so he grabbed Venerate Talisman Marshal and Yun Mu and disappeared. Behind Venerable Spirit Void, Pil Guzi also grabbed Lu Swan and chased after him. Not good, they want to leave. The corpse sex experts weren't fools. The moment they saw Sage Spirit Su escape, they reacted and took out their magic treasures to attack the exit of the Transverse Canyon. Die. However, Ningyu had been waiting for this moment. He repeatedly waved the Red Devil Sword, blocking many fatal attacks for Sage Spirit Su and the others. With Ningyu blocking them, Sage Spirit Su and the others quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Woof woof. What surprised Ningyu was that the Dark Emperor didn't escape with Sage Spirit Su and the others. Instead, he sneaked back. Crack. The Dark Emperor sneakily took advantage of a corpse insect's mid-rank 9 human sovereign not paying attention to bite him. His sharp teeth bit into the middle rank 9 human sovereign's shoulder and directly bit off a large chunk of flesh. Pa pa pa. As soon as he bit off the flesh, the Dark Emperor spat it out. What kind of nonsense is this? Don't the people of the corpse insect bathe? It's as uncomfortable as eating shit. The Dark Emperor rolled his eyes and looked at the middle rank 9 human sovereign with disdain. His expression was as annoying as it could get. The middle rank 9 human sovereign, who had his flesh bitten off by the Dark Emperor, let out a hysterical roar. Shameful. This was truly shameful. It was one thing for the flesh on his shoulder to be bitten off, but that damn dog actually dared to insult him in front of so many people. He really couldn't bear it. There was no need to bear it anymore. Chapter 1261. Chapter 1261. Chapter 1261. Mobilize the power of the bloodline, Dark Emperor, let us fight to our heart's content today. Looking at the incoming 9th grade middle human sovereign, Ningyu placed the red demon sword before his chest as a deafening roar resounded throughout the canyon. Fight to your heart's content? I'm going to chop you into minced meat and feed you to the dogs. Corpse Biao was so angry that his teeth chattered. This was intolerable. No matter what, he was going to capture Ningyu, cut him into pieces, and feed him to the dogs. Elder Corpse Puppet, I'll have to trouble you to suppress Jean and leave these 2 bastards to me. Corpse Biao didn't let his hatred get to his head. He first spoke to the Corpse Puppet before charging at Ningyu. In Corpse Tiger's heart, Jean 2 was the strongest among Ningyu's subordinates. Apart from Jean 2, Ningyu's fighting strength was also insignificant. Now that he had lost the Jean ban, killing Ningyu would be as easy as blowing off dust. Go, stop Jean, and Shi Shao controlled the puppet to fight Jean Tuesday. As for Shi Shao, she crossed her arms in front of her chest and watched the battle between Ningyu and Corpse Biao with interest. She did not take any action. After summoning the fierce beast puppet, the Corpse Puppet was confident and no longer worried that Ningyu would escape. The reason why Shi Shao didn't attack immediately was that he wanted to test out Ningyu's strongest combat power and see if Ningyu was suitable to be refined into a puppet. Once he found out Ningyu's true battle prowess, he would kill him with lightning speed. You go too. To be on the safe side, Shi Shao said to Shi Gang, don't hurt Ningyu. Also, try to force Ningyu to use all his trump cards. Understood. In fact, Shi Gang had long since wanted to make a move, but he couldn't because Shi Shao hadn't said anything. How could he not be excited now that the Corpse Puppet had clearly indicated for him to take action? With both feet touching the ground, Shi Gang dashed out in an instant. Rumble. In midair, Ningyu and the Dark Emperor were able to fight evenly against the Corpse Tiger if they joined forces. However, everything changed when Shi Gang joined the battle. Ningyu and the Dark Emperor were completely suppressed. Although Ningyu was charging left and right with the red demon sword in his hand, and was even constantly using the 10,000 spirits sacred flag, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that it was only a matter of time before Ningyu and the Dark Emperor were defeated. Damn dog, I'm going to stew you whole later. Corpse Tiger's main target was the Dark Emperor. Although the wound on his shoulder had already been healed by his powerful blood chi, it would definitely leave a scar. Corpse Fiend would never forget this grudge. Only by eating the Dark Emperor could he resolve the hatred in his heart. Stinking reptile, I'm going to bite your other shoulder off. The Dark Emperor touched his sore spot, causing Corpse Biao to stomp his feet in anger. On the other side of the battlefield, Ning Yu was completely suppressed by Corpse Gang. He was so suppressed that he could barely breathe. This won't do. I can only make my move in another 10 minutes. Ning Yu appeared to be very weak, and could be killed by Corpse Gang at any time. Something doesn't seem right. Corpse Puppet was a little puzzled by Ning Yu's state. How powerful was Corpse Puppet's perception? He discovered that Ning Yu was on the verge of being killed a few times, but in the end, he would explode with astonishing battle strength and avoid a fatal blow. It was obvious that Ning Yu's true battle strength was completely different from what he was currently displaying. Not good. Another 5 minutes passed before Corpse Puppet finally reacted. Corpse Gang, Corpse Biao, retreat quickly. Corpse Puppet roared. Corpse Puppet's roar caused Corpse Gang and Corpse Biao to be very puzzled. They were fighting well and had the upper hand. Why was Corpse Puppet telling them to retreat? However, Sure Gang and Corpse Biao's momentary daze made them pay a bloody price. Have you noticed? Since you've noticed, then all of you must die today. The corners of Ning Yu's lips curled up as his aura suddenly strengthened. In the air, Ning Yu opened his mouth and all the surrounding Yuan Qi flew towards him, entering his stomach. At the same time, Ning Yu's body glowed with golden light, hovering in the air like a golden god of war. Whoosh! A pair of wings grew on the Dark Emperor's back, enlarging his body by several times. Carrying Ning Yu, he charged at Corpse Biao. Crack! Wherever Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor passed, the wind and clouds changed colors and the air retreated. The punch landed squarely on Corpse Biao's heart. The terrifying force from the heart caused Corpse Biao's pupils to constrict. His entire body was sent flying, crashing into the stone walls on both sides of the ravine. Corpse Biao clutched at his heart, panting heavily. Heaven-defying indeed. Ning Yu revealed an astonished expression when he saw Corpse Biao's actions. Corpse Biao's heart had been pierced by him, but he had not been killed immediately. This had exceeded his expectations. One had to know that Corpse Biao's heart was not on the right side, but on the left. Why you so ruthless? Corpse Biao pointed at Ning Yu with his right hand and roared with the last bit of his strength. I should have. With his heart shattered, Corpse Biao vomited a mouthful of blood before he could finish his words and collapsed to the ground. At this moment, a mid-stage 9th grade human supreme, Corpse Biao, had died in battle. Rumble! Corpse Biao's death caused a huge uproar in the area. Many corpse insect cultivators retreated, not daring to approach Ning Yu. Corpse Biao was a mid-stage 9th grade human supreme, the third strongest expert on their side. Even Corpse Biao had been easily killed, let alone them. Divine War Body. Corpse Biao's expression was extremely ugly. He had not expected that Ning Yu, whom he had regarded as a dead man, would actually possess the Divine War Body. Moreover, from the golden light emitting from Ning Yu's body, Corpse Biao deduced that Ning Yu possessed the complete bloodline of the Divine War Body. Ning Yu, since you have the Divine War Body, why did you only reveal it now? Corpse Biao's expression was gloomy as he said coldly. Corpse Biao could clearly see a ball of golden blood flowing continuously from Ning Yu's heart to every corner of his body. The Divine War Body was indeed terrifying. Although Corpse Biao was a late-stage 9th grade human supreme and had ferocious beast puppets by his side, he still felt great pressure when facing the complete bloodline of the Divine War Body. I know. Corpse Biao seemed to be talking to himself. You're stalling for time because you've just awakened the divine war body bloodline and cannot properly mobilize the power of the bloodline in your body. Suddenly, Corpse Biao came to a realization. At the same time, Corpse Biao was extremely vexed. If not for his stupidity, Corpse Biao would not have been killed and the others would not have escaped. That's right, I'm indeed stalling for time. Ningyu stared straight at Corpse Biao and said in a low voice, "If you had attacked me earlier, I would definitely have lost. But unfortunately, because of your stupidity, I am able to mobilize the power of the bloodline to fight well." Ah! Corpse Biao threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Don't think that I don't know that with your mid-stage 5th grade human supreme cultivation, you can only mobilize the power of the bloodline in your body for half an hour at most. In other words, you will be extremely weak after half an hour. Half an hour is more than enough to kill all of you. Ning Yu's gaze swept across everyone before he shot out explosively. Chapter 1262. 3 Regions, How Dare You? Seeing Ning Yu charging towards Gang, Shao raged. He had brought 2 intermediate grade 9 human sovereigns with him this time, Gang and Biao. Now that Biao had been mercilessly killed, if Gang was also killed, he would be punished everywhere even if he returned to the Corpse Yin sect. Therefore, in Zhao's heart, he had to protect Gang no matter what. Wouldn't I lose face if I don't dare just because you say so? Faint words came from Ning Yu's mouth as Ning Yu's speed increased and he appeared before Gang in the blink of an eye. Golden light burst out from his body as Ning Yu clenched his right fist and punched towards Gang. At the critical moment, Gang gathered all the energy in his knowledge into his arms and used them to block his chest. Crack! The fist and arm collided and Gang felt a terrifying force coming from his arm. The terrifying force sent Gang flying back and blood spewed from his mouth, dyeing the sky red. Go, go! We must kill Ning Yu no matter what! Shao roared like a madman. At the same time, Shao controlled the ferocious beast puppet to charge at Ning Yu, trying to restrain Ning Yu with it. Boom! The ferocious beast puppet was indeed powerful. In just one move, it had forced Ning Yu back. One must know that Ning Yu had mobilized the bloodline power of the war god physique. Those who block me will die. Sinister words came from Ning Yu's mouth as Ning Yu's aura soared once again. Everyone, let's attack together and kill him. Ning Yu's actions made Shao nervous. Right now, Ning Yu was like a war god that could contend with the ferocious beast puppet. If Ning Yu's aura soared again, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that time, aside from the ferocious beast puppet, even he would die here. Russell. The experts of the Corpse Yin sect were all ruthless characters. They knew that today was a moment of life and death, so they unleashed their trump cards one after another. They wanted to kill Ning Yu before his aura reached its peak. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate Ning Yu or the god of war physique. The power of the divine war body had already penetrated deep into their hearts, causing them to tremble. Once Ning Yu's war god body, which possessed 100% bloodline power, matured, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even the Corpse sect might be uprooted. Damn it! Why didn't anyone tell me that Ning Yu has the war god body? The corpse hag roared as it fought. He was proud of his strength and had boasted before he came that he would definitely kill Ning Yu. Unexpectedly, something went wrong along the way. Ning Yu had the war god body, and the power of his bloodline was extremely rich. Kill Ning Yu and obtain the bloodline of the war god body. The corpse hag's eyes became colder and colder. The celestial wolf sword in its hand waved repeatedly, interweaving several silver-white rays of light, like a giant net, pressing down on Ning Yu. Break! Ning Yu pointed out with a finger. Suddenly, the wind and clouds changed color. A golden cold light flew across the sky and appeared in front of the giant net in the blink of an eye. Crack! Wherever the golden cold light passed, the sky-high net would split open, and a huge gap would appear. The cold light passed through the gap and bombarded Corpse Gang. "How dare you!" Everything happened so fast that Corpse Hag didn't have time to react. The golden cold light hit Corpse Gang's heart. Poochie. The same situation happened again. The power of the golden cold light was obviously much stronger than the power of Ning Yu's fist. Ning Yu's fist could kill Corpse Biao, so naturally, the golden cold light could kill Corpse Gang. In an instant, Corpse Gang's heart was pierced and his whole body exploded. Ah! As soon as Shi Jun died, Corpse Hag let out a hysterical roar. In less than 3 minutes, the 2 ninth-grade intermediate human supremes he brought with him were all killed. Anger filled Corpse Hag's chest. Russell! Ningyu was too powerful. He was so powerful that many corpse insect experts retreated, not daring to face Ningyu. In the air, Ningyu's body emitted a golden light, like a golden god of war floating in the air, shocking everyone. On Ningyu's left, the Dark Emperor's hair stood on end and his tail swayed in the wind. Looking closely, he was actually absorbing the golden light emitted from Ningyu's body. The blood qi of the god of war overflowing from Ningyu's body was a great supplement to the Dark Emperor. It could make his mind excited and his battle strength soar. On Ningyu's right, Jin Tu's face was expressionless, and his eyes were calm. "What are you doing? Are you trying to rebel? Go, go!" Corpse Hag was completely enraged. The corpse insect experts he brought with him were actually afraid of Ningyu's strength, so they all retreated. This made him feel ashamed. Crack! Crack! Corpse Hag, who was in a state of rage, flicked his fingers and 2 cold lights flew out. The cold lights turned into sharp swords and directly cut off the heads of 2 6th-grade human supremes. Rumble! Corpse Hag's powerful attack had a great effect. The remaining corpse insect experts all stopped and didn't dare to take half a step back. Although Corpse Hag suffered a great loss in the battle with Ningyu, his cultivation was still at the late stage 9th-grade human supremes. Moreover, Corpse Hag had a puppet with him, which was also at the late stage 9th-grade human supremes. Strictly speaking, the puppet's battle strength was also very powerful and not much weaker than Corpse Hag. This puppet's original form was a one-horned Tyrannosaurus, a late-stage 9th-grade human supremes. Back then, in order to capture the one-horned Tyrannosaurus, Corpse Hag paid a great price. She gathered many late-stage 9th-grade human supremes and set up a trap to capture it. After capturing the one-horned Tyrannosaurus, Corpse Hag refined it for a whole year before it was refined into a puppet. One-horned puppet, go and tear that young man to pieces. Corpse Hag suddenly stomped on the ground and leaped into the air, facing Ningyu from afar. Pointing at Ningyu with his right hand, Corpse Hag said in a deep voice, "As for the 2 guys next to him, kill them as well." Roar! The one-horned Tyrannosaurus let out a furious roar and turned into a gust of wind, charging at Ningyu. Although he was refined into a puppet, the one-horned Tyrannosaurus still had some intelligence, just that it wasn't complete. At this moment, there was only one thought in the puppet's mind, and that was to tear Ningyu to pieces and tear Ningyu to pieces. "Ningyu, you go deal with Corpse Hag. Leave this big guy to me and Jin." And the Dark Emperor knew that Ningyu was going to kill Corpse Hag, so when he saw the puppet charging out, he kicked Jin An's butt and charged at the puppet first. The Dark Emperor was a 4th-grade human sovereign, and his battle prowess was comparable to a 9th-grade human sovereign. However, he wasn't a match for the puppet alone. In just one exchange, the Dark Emperor was sent flying and landed among the experts of the corpse sect. Kill. Tear him to pieces. He's a purple-gold sky-devouring hound. Capture him alive. Capture the purple-gold sky-devouring hound alive and ask a skilled alchemist to refine pills for him. When the Dark Emperor landed, he was like a sheep in a tiger's mouth and was surrounded by the experts of the corpse sect. Jinan, who was in the air, suddenly dashed out and engaged in a fierce battle with the one-horned puppet. At this moment, the transverse canyon was divided into 3 areas. The first area was where Jinan and the one-horned puppet were fighting. The second area was where the Dark Emperor was fighting the experts of the corpse sect. As for the third area, it was in the air. Chapter 1263. Chapter 1263. A terrifying battle power. Ningyu, I admit that you're strong. Shi Xiao didn't attack immediately. Instead, he glanced at the other 2 battlefields. The puppet's strength was slightly stronger than Jin Tu's. In this battlefield, the puppet had the upper hand in pure physical attack. On the other battlefield, although the Dark Emperor was defeated by the puppet, he was extremely powerful. He transformed into a native sky-devouring dog and swung his tail. Almost every time he swung his tail, a 6th-grade human supreme would be killed. Fortunately, the corpse sect still had a 9th-grade human supreme. Under the leadership of the 9th-grade human supreme, they gradually turned the tide and were about to suppress the Dark Emperor. Hand over the divine war body bloodline and I can spare you. Shi Xiao smirked as he had the upper hand in both battlefields. However, before Shi Xiao could finish her sentence, Ningyu rushed out and appeared in front of Shi Xiao in an instant. His fist carried a violent yuan qi gale as it fiercely smashed into Shi Xiao's chest. Damn it! The fact that Ningyu didn't play by the rules infuriated Shi Xiao. He placed his right hand in front of his chest and collided with Ningyu's fist. When the 2 fists collided, both Ningyu and Shi Xiao took a few steps back before they could stabilize themselves. Judging from the distance, Ningyu and Shi Xiao were evenly matched. No one could do anything to the other. Heavenly Wolf's Fury. Shi Xiao was furious. He took out the Heavenly Wolf sword and slashed. A huge shadow of a Heavenly Wolf appeared and roared as it charged at Ningyu. This huge shadow of a Heavenly Wolf was no different from a real one, but it was terrifyingly powerful. Even though Ningyu was prepared, he still felt his heart tremble. He didn't dare to face the shadow of a Heavenly Wolf. As expected of the Heavenly Wolf sword, a top-grade royal-grade flying sword, there must be a Heavenly Wolf's soul sealed inside it. The Heavenly Wolf clan was known as the Ancient Ferocious Beast. An adult Heavenly Wolf was at least a Supremacy Realm cultivator. The Heavenly Wolf, who possessed a supreme bloodline, was said to be born as a supreme being, possessing terrifying strength. If the real Heavenly Wolf were to come, I might feel some fear. However, a mere Heavenly Wolf phantom image wants to suppress me? You are too arrogant. A cold glint shot out from Ningyu's eyes as he wielded the red demon sword and slashed at the illusory image of the Heavenly Wolf. How arrogant! Although the Sky Wolf's phantom image is only a phantom image, it is extremely powerful. If a random flying sword can kill it, that's impossible! Corpse Puppet said sinisterly when she saw Ningyu slashing the red demon's sword at the Celestial Wolf Phantom. However, the Corpse Puppet's pupils grew larger and larger. In the end, it was so shocked that its eyeballs almost popped out. Gotcha! In midair, Ningyu wielded the red demon's sword and slashed at the Celestial Wolf's head. Crack! The Celestial Wolf phantom image was split into 2 by Ningyu's red devil. Roar! After the Celestial Wolf phantom image was split into 2, an earth-shattering roar came from the Celestial Wolf sword. This roar seemed to be making a vow to Ningyu. It was furious and wanted to grind Ningyu's bones to dust. Humph! How dare you be so arrogant with a flying sword? Grab it and destroy it. Even the sword itself is cut in half. With a cold snort, Ningyu stared at the Celestial Wolf sword in the Corpse Puppet's hand and said, "The Celestial Wolf sword is not worthy of being my flying sword." The Corpse Puppet was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood. The Celestial Wolf sword was a supreme-grade Emperor-level flying sword. It was extremely powerful. In the Corpse Puppet's opinion, as long as the Celestial Wolf sword was used, Ning Yu would definitely be killed. Now, it seemed that he had to do it himself. Taking a deep breath, the corpse puppet took a step forward and merged into the void. Once he made a move, it would be clear whether he was real or not. The corpse puppet moved. It looked like it was still in the same place, but in reality it was just a phantom image. The corpse puppet's real body had already arrived in front of Ning Yu. Die. The primordial qi contained in the corpse puppet's fist was no less than Ning Yu's. Universe palm. At the critical moment, Ning Yu took half a step back and then opened his fist into a palm. In order to kill the corpse puppet with one move, Ning Yu wrapped all the primordial qi in his body around his palm. Moreover, his late-stage rank 8 soul power and the longevity flame were also wrapped around his palm. The blood in his body circulated rapidly. The power of the war god body was unleashed to the extreme by Ning Yu. Bang! In the next moment, Ning Yu's palm and the corpse puppet's fist collided. Crack! Ning Yu's palm suddenly enlarged and wrapped around the corpse puppet's fist. With a sudden burst of force, the corpse puppet's fist made a crisp sound. Bones shattered. The bones in the corpse puppet's entire right hand were completely shattered. Ah! The pain from the shattered bones caused the corpse puppet to let out a heart-wrenching scream. It was obvious that the corpse puppet's right hand was completely crippled. Ning Yu, I'm going to tear you into pieces. The corpse puppet was trembling with rage. As a late-stage rank 9 human supreme, his right hand was actually crippled by Ning Yu. The enraged corpse puppet clenched his left fist and punched toward Ning Yu again. Good timing. Ning Yu was initially worried that the corpse puppet would escape. Now that the corpse puppet had gone berserk, Ning Yu was slightly relieved. If the corpse puppet escaped, Ning Yu would definitely not chase after it. After all, the Dark Emperor and the Golden Leo were in a fierce battle and were at a disadvantage. Ning Yu had to pay attention to their movements at all times. Now that the corpse puppet had gone berserk, it was the best opportunity for Ning Yu. All the golden blood in his body gathered at a point on his right hand. Ning Yu's eyes were indifferent as he raised his hand and punched. Crack, crack, crack. The power of Ning Yu's punch was extremely terrifying. The space cracked and a huge crack appeared. Not good. The corpse puppet didn't expect Ning Yu to have such a terrifying move. His pupils shrank as he turned around and ran. Where there's life, there's hope. From the corpse puppet's point of view, as long as he escaped now, he could come back in half an hour and easily finish off Ning Yu. However, how could Ning Yu give him such a chance? Ning Yu chased after the corpse puppet and his right fist landed heavily on the corpse puppet's left hand. Crack! Ning Yu's fist landed on the corpse puppet's left hand. Without a doubt, the corpse puppet's left hand was directly cracked. The divine war body is indeed powerful. The surrounding corpse sect experts who were fighting with the Dark Emperor all revealed a look of fear. The terror of the divine war body was far beyond their expectations. Even the powerful corpse puppet wasn't a match for Ning Yu, let alone them. Run! At this moment, the corpse sect experts once again had this thought and couldn't think of it for a long time. Whoosh! The experts of the corpse sect worked together to force back the Dark Emperor, and they all escaped. Dark Emperor, Golden Lion, chase after them. Don't let anyone escape. Ning Yu's eyes flickered and he said, As for the horned puppet, leave it to me. Ning Yu couldn't allow the corpse sect to know that he had the divine war body. With how cruel the corpse sect was, if they knew that he had the divine war body, they would probably send Earth sovereigns to deal with him. Right now, he was only a middle-phase 5th-grade sovereign. Even if he used the power of his bloodline, he wouldn't be able to deal with an Earth sovereign. Before he fully matured, Ning Yu couldn't reveal that he had the divine war body. Understood. The Dark Emperor knew the severity of the situation. He flapped his purplish-golden wings and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Chapter 1264. Subdue, single-horned puppet, kill him. Seeing so many corpse insect experts fleeing, not only was Sure Shao not angry, but she was also very excited. The escape of the corpse sex experts had led the Dark Emperor and the Golden Puppet away. Originally, the one-horned puppet wanted to chase after Jinan, but the corpse hag, with her sharp eyes and quick mouth, stopped it in time. With the single-horned puppet by his side, the corpse hag wasn't very afraid of Ningyu. Sure Shao, do you really think this single-horned puppet can kill me? The corners of Ningyu's lips curled up slightly. Ningyu activated the War God Physique's bloodline power, allowing his strength to soar for half an hour. Now that there were 20 minutes left, Ningyu was truly fearless. The reason why Ningyu didn't attack immediately was because he wanted to subdue the single-horned puppet and the corpse puppet. Not long ago, Sure Shao had said that the Blood God Palace, Emperor God Palace, and other powerful sects had set up obstacles on the way to the Thousand-Leaf Empire. Ningyu had a bold idea. He wanted to kill all the experts from the Blood God Palace and Emperor God Palace who were blocking his way. You are heartless to me, so don't blame me for being unjust to you. The power of the bloodline could not be used frequently. Every time it was used, it would take a long time to recuperate. Unless he could find a miraculous elixir, it would take at least a month for Ningyu to mobilize the power of his bloodline again. Ningyu couldn't wait for a month, so he had to subdue the corpse puppets and make them work for him. Whether I can kill it or not, I'll have to try to find out. A cold voice came from the mouth of the corpse puppet. Whoosh! In the next instant, the horned puppet tore through space and appeared in front of Ningyu. Its blood chi is so dense. Could it be that it still retains the intelligence of a one-horned Tyrannosaurus? Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from the one-horned puppet, Ningyu was shocked. Logically speaking, the one-horned Tyrannosaurus had already been refined into a puppet by the corpse puppet. It was impossible for it to have any flesh and blood aura. Boom! Right at this moment, the single-horned puppet transformed into a strong gust of wind that smashed fiercely towards Ningyu. Humph! I might have been afraid of you just now, but now that I've activated the power of my bloodline, killing you now is as easy as killing an ant. With a cold snort, Ningyu dodged to the side, grabbed the single-horned puppet's legs, and slammed it heavily on the ground. Dong dong! Ningyu moved the horned puppet up and down, causing it to continuously hit the ground. Fortunately, the single-horned puppet's body was tough. Otherwise, it would have fallen apart long ago if Ningyu moved like this. My horned puppet! Sure Zhao's pupils shrank as she roared. Noisy! Ningyu's eyes emitted a cold gleam, and then he swung the one-horned Tyrannosaurus at the corpse puppet. Gotcha! 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 Although the corpse puppet was a late-stage 9th-grade supreme martial artist, it had already lost its ability to fight. Moreover, the corpse puppet's body was not as tough as the single-horned puppet's, so the corpse puppet's ribs that had just been reconnected broke another 3 times. Ningyu, I'll kill you! The corpse puppet had a backbone, and it roared as it charged towards Ningyu. Not bad, you've got guts. Ningyu casually threw the half-dead single-horned puppet to the side, and then looked at the corpse puppet with interest. Ningyu wanted to see what kind of trump card the corpse puppet had that it dared to be so presumptuous towards him. Run! However, what happened next made Ningyu a little dumbfounded. Before the corpse puppet reached Ningyu, it hurriedly took out a scroll from its bosom. The scroll exploded, and a small whirlpool appeared in the area. The corpse puppet leaped into the whirlpool. A cold voice came from the whirlpool. Ningyu, if you dare to go to the Thousand Leaves Empire, you're destined to be killed by me. Want to leave? It won't be that easy. Ningyu automatically ignored the corpse puppet's words. He picked up the single-horned puppet again and swung it heavily at the whirlpool. Rumble! The single-horned puppet's body was tough, and even though it hit the whirlpool, it did not shatter. Inside the whirlpool, the corpse puppet was no longer calm. The whirlpool formed by the scroll was not particularly stable. If Ningyu continued to bombard it like this, it would shatter sooner or later. Once the whirlpool cracked, it would be exposed to Ningyu's vision and caught by Ningyu. The consequences of falling into the enemy's hands could be imagined. No, I can't let the whirlpool break. The corpse puppet repeatedly forced out blood essence, trying to strengthen the whirlpool. Crack. However, the corpse puppet was no longer at its peak. No matter how hard it tried, the whirlpool was still getting weaker and weaker, and the shaking was getting more and more intense. Finally, a crisp sound rang out, and the whirlpool suddenly cracked open. Bang! After the whirlpool cracked open, the corpse puppet flew out like a kite with a broken string, crashing into the single-horned puppet. How could the corpse puppet's body compare to the single-horned puppet's in terms of toughness? The corpse puppet's body was about to fall apart, and it sat on the ground like a pile of mud. Defeated, completely defeated. The corpse puppet's eyes were empty and lifeless, and it was in complete despair. As a late-stage 9th-grade supreme martial artist, and with the celestial wolf sword and the single-horned puppet, it was impossible. Who would have thought that it would still lose to Ningyu? I hate you! The corpse puppet wanted to roar out the frustration in its heart. It did not lose to Ningyu, but to carelessness, to inaccurate information, and to the war god physique. If it had known Ningyu's true combat strength in advance, it would not have lost, and it would have successfully killed Ningyu. Don't hate, I'll give you a chance to live. Ningyu took a step forward, swung the single-horned puppet, and was about to smash it at the corpse puppet. What chance? In the face of death, the corpse puppet, like most people, chose to drag out an ignoble existence. Submit to me, Ningyu said. I'll submit to him first, and then find a chance to escape. The corpse puppet thought in its heart. However, the corpse puppet did not reveal its inner thoughts, but acted a little unyielding. Impossible. I am a senior member of the corpse insect. I will never submit to you. Bang! Ningyu swung the single-horned puppet and smashed it. The corpse puppet was already seriously injured, and now that it was smashed by the single-horned puppet, it let out a cry. I submit to you, stop smashing or I'll die. The corpse puppet hurriedly shouted. Oh, I thought you had something special in mind. Ningyu stopped and said, Open your mind and let my soul power enter your sea of consciousness. Controlling the corpse puppet was something that Ningyu had decided long ago, and it would never change. Because in a dozen minutes, his aura would decline, and he must control the corpse puppet before that. If not, he could only kill the corpse puppet. The corpse puppet was also rational. It knew that there was no way to argue with Ningyu at this time, so it could only be humble. As long as it found a good opportunity, it would be Ningyu's time to die. My mind has been completely opened, your soul power can come in. The corpse puppet closed its eyes and said. However, the cold look in the corpse puppet's eyes flashed, and no one noticed it. Okay. Chapter 1265. Chapter 1265. Chapter 1265 Hunting. As soon as Ningyu's soul force entered the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, he discovered that something was amiss. However, Ningyu did not say anything. Instead, he left most of his soul force at the back, separating out a wisp of it to probe the corpse puppet's sea of knowledge. Did he discover something? Seeing that Ningyu had not immediately taken control of himself, and had instead split out a strand of his soul force to explore his sea of consciousness, Shi Zhao's expression became somewhat grave. The reason why he opened his mind and guided Ningyu's soul power into his sea of consciousness was because he felt that he had a way to deal with Ningyu. Of course, the premise was that Ningyu had to do everything he could to control him. Wait a little longer. Shi Zhao was patient. He knew what Ningyu was afraid of. The more it was like this, the calmer he had to be. He could not afford to make any mistakes. What is that? Suddenly, Ningyu discovered a dim light in the depths of the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness. Although this glow was a little dim, It was still discovered by Ning Yu's keen senses. With a thought, Ning Yu floated towards the depths of the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness. Almost there. Just a little bit closer. Sensing that Ning Yu was continuing to delve deeper into her sea of consciousness, the corpse puppet was so happy that she almost jumped up. As long as Ning Yu took another step forward, he would fall into his trap. At that time, Ning Yu's soul power would be trapped, and his physical body would be easily destroyed. At a distance of one step, Ning Yu suddenly felt a sense of alertness in the depths of his heart. With the corpse puppet's personality, it was impossible for her to surrender without putting up a fight. I was careless. Ning Yu lifted his right foot and retracted it. Damn it! Seeing Ning Yu retract his right foot, Shi Xiao couldn't help but curse. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. I'm so angry. Corpse puppet. At this point, Ning Yu already knew that Shi Xiao was plotting against him. With his sharp eyes, Ning Yu retracted his soul power from the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, picked up the horned puppet from the ground, and threw it at the corpse puppet. Ning Yu didn't use any essence chi spell technique. He only used his physical strength to bombard the corpse puppet. Every time it was struck by the horned puppet, the corpse puppet would let out a blood-curdling screech. 98, 99, 100. Every time Ning Yu swung the horned puppet, he would count it. Ning Yu only stopped after swinging the horned puppet and smashing it 100 times. He said in a low voice, Shi Xiao, I originally only wanted you to work for me, but now it looks like I have to completely refine you. Don't refine me. I'll tell you everything I know. Please don't refine me. The corpse puppet knew that it was afraid. It didn't expect that everything it had planned would be seen through by Ning Yu's keen perception. If it had known that this would happen, it would have completely opened its mind and allowed Ning Yu to control it. Too late. Ning Yu's face was expressionless. He swung the horned puppet again and smashed it at the corpse puppet's head. Bang! This time, Ning Yu used almost all his strength and directly smashed the corpse puppet to the point where it was on the verge of death. Swoosh! At this moment, a cold light shot out from Ning Yu's eyes and directly entered the corpse puppet's body. After this cold light entered the corpse puppet's body, it stuck closely to the corpse puppet's heart and went silent. After doing all this, Ning Yu separated a wisp of soul power and carefully entered the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, devouring and refining the light that the corpse puppet had left in the sea of consciousness. Following that, Ning Yu's main soul power retreated from the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness, leaving behind an imperceptible wisp of soul power that constantly emitted light. This wisp of soul power was left behind by Ning Yu to control the corpse puppet. With this wisp of soul power, the corpse puppet wouldn't dare to be impudent, or its sea of consciousness would be destroyed. Wake up. About 10 minutes later, Ning Yu kicked the corpse puppet's head with his right foot and said solemnly, It's time to go. Ouch. After being kicked in the head by Ning Yu, the corpse puppet's eyes opened abruptly. The corpse puppet first looked at Ning Yu doubtfully and let out a mocking sound before shouting, Ha ha ha. Ning Yu, the wheel of fortune really changes. This year, it's my turn. You've lost all your yuan qi and your aura is weak. It must be the dissipation of the divine war body's aura, and you've also suffered a backlash. Scram, hand over all your dharma treasures and elixirs, or I'll teach you a lesson. Ning Yu kicked the corpse puppet again and said indifferently, Rebel, you're really rebelling. The corpse puppet roared. How could it tolerate being bullied by Ning Yu again and again? Climbing up from the ground with difficulty, the corpse puppet raised its fist and was about to smash at Ning Yu. However, as soon as the corpse puppet raised its right fist, it subconsciously smashed its own cheek. The corpse puppet was dumbfounded, its eyes widened in disbelief. Shaking its head, the corpse puppet raised its fist again and smashed at Ning Yu. Pa. Not only did the corpse puppet's fist not smash at Ning Yu, it kept smashing its own cheek. Soon, the corpse puppet's head turned into a pig's head. Quick, let me. Woo, stop. The corpse puppet was very smart and knew who was the culprit after thinking for a while. Ningyu. It must be Ningyu who did something to it while it was unconscious. Ningyu just wanted to teach the corpse puppet a lesson. He didn't really want to take its life. With a thought, Ningyu let go of the control of the corpse puppet. Ningyu, what do you want? Although Ningyu let go of the control, the corpse puppet was still a little scared. From time to time, it stared at Ningyu, afraid that what happened just now would happen again. The corpse puppet had already recognized the fact that it was controlled by Ningyu. If Ningyu wanted to kill it, it would be effortless. In this situation, it could only pretend to be polite to Ningyu first, and then think of a way to contact the experts of the other major sects. You want to join forces with the others to deal with me? As soon as the thought appeared in the corpse puppet's mind, Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at the corpse puppet with interest. This is bad. Being stared at by Ningyu like this, the corpse puppet knew that it was bad. Pa. Sure enough, the corpse puppet's right hand once again went out of control and hit its own cheek. Muffled sounds rang out as the corpse puppet's fist continued to fall on its cheek. The corpse puppet's head was already like a pig's, and now that it was hit by it, its cheek was swollen to the point that it couldn't even see its eyes. I only want to cooperate with smart people. As for those who aren't smart, I don't mind sending them to hell. Ningyu took a step forward and revealed his aura. Although the bloodline power of the war god body had disappeared, Ningyu didn't show any signs of weakness. Instead, he was as strong as before. This situation was obviously out of the corpse puppet's expectation. How did he recover so quickly? Could it be that he has some kind of heavenly treasure? The corpse puppet's heart beat rapidly. A heavenly treasure that could quickly remove the aftereffects of the war god body must be very special. Once he obtained it, his strength would increase greatly. Whether I have a heavenly treasure or not, it's not your concern. What you need to do now is to tell me where the other experts of the corpse sect are. Next, I'm going to hunt. Chapter 1266. Myriad Bone Cave, Ningyu, they are all experts of the corpse sect. If you want to kill them, aren't you afraid that venerable corpse will personally come to the Transverse Canyon? The corpse puppet pretended to be calm and said in a low voice. You seem to be fearless. Ningyu narrowed his eyes and said faintly. How could I dare to be so fearless? I am currently being controlled by you and might die at any moment. I am a prisoner, so I am only considering things from your perspective. The corpse puppet said. Pa. Ningyu slapped the corpse puppet's cheek, sending it flying and crashing into the mountain wall. You dare to behave atrociously here without any trump cards? If you know what's good for you, then take me to the corpse sect as soon as possible. If you can't kill them all within a day, I'll skin you alive. Ningyu said coldly. He did not want to waste any more time here. The Dark Emperor and Jean were chasing after the corpse sex experts. Up until now, Ningyu still hadn't contacted them. Logically speaking, both the Dark Emperor and the Golden Two were connected to Ningyu. Now that Ningyu could not contact them, it meant that they were most likely in danger. The more Ningyu thought about it, the more anxious he became. He raised his hand and slapped the corpse puppet a few more times. Last chance, take me to the experts of the corpse sect or die. Ningyu's aura burst forth, as if he was going to kill the corpse puppet if it refused. I'll talk. It's very likely that they're at the Blood God Palace. Caw. The corpse puppet's knees creaked, not daring to be slow. At the same time, in order to gain Ningyu's trust, Shi Xiao revealed a secret. In order to kill you, the Blood God Palace sent a much stronger lineup than our corpse sect. How strong? Ningyu asked. Peak 9th grade sovereign. Shi Xiao said. The Blood God Palace has sent a total of 3 experts this time. 2 of them are late 9th grade human sovereigns and 1 is peak 9th grade human sovereign. Pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. Hearing this, Ningyu frowned slightly, feeling a little troubled. A peak 9th grade human supreme being was indeed very powerful, far exceeding his current strength. According to Ningyu's speculations, he would have to think of a way to reach the 6th grade sovereign realm and use the full power of his bloodline to fight with a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign realm human sovereign. Of course, this was just a simple exchange of blows. There was no way for him to defeat Zhang Xian. If he wanted to defeat a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign, Ningyu would have to reach the pinnacle 6th grade sovereign realm, or even the 7th grade sovereign realm, before he could defeat a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu felt a deep pressure. If the corpse puppet wasn't lying, then the Blood God Palace was determined to kill them. Let's go, take me to the experts of the corpse insect. Kicking the corpse puppet's butt, Ningyu said, "You don't have to give me the exact location of the corpse sex experts within half an hour. Otherwise, I'll roast you alive." Ningyu was incomparably domineering. In fact, it wasn't surprising. Ningyu had left 2 backups in the corpse puppet's sea of consciousness and heart, so he wasn't afraid that the corpse puppet would betray him. With these 2 backups, the corpse puppet wouldn't be able to cause any trouble. "Let the one-horned puppet take us," the corpse puppet hurriedly said. The corpse puppet knew the approximate location of the Dark Emperor's group, which was very far away from here. With the speed of his injured body, it would probably take a few hours to get there. Ningyu gave him half an hour. If he couldn't find the exact location of the Dark Emperor's group within half an hour, Ningyu might really kill him. "It's fine, this one-horned puppet is mine. Point out the direction and I'll take you there." Ningyu waved his hand and flicked his finger. Suddenly, a cold light flew out and entered the one-horned puppet's sea of consciousness. "Ah!" The corpse puppet let out a miserable scream. At this moment, the corpse puppet discovered that its connection with the one-horned puppet had been severed. In other words, Ningyu controlled the one-horned puppet, the puppet that he had spent a lot of effort to refine. Swish! Ignoring the cold gaze of the corpse puppet, Ningyu kicked the corpse puppet's chest and kicked it onto the one-horned puppet. As for Ningyu, he leaped up and stood on the back of the one-horned puppet, controlling it to pass through the transverse canyon and move forward quickly. "Which direction?" "Go straight ahead, about 5 minutes." After leaving the transverse canyon, the corpse puppet took out a round plate from its bosom. There was a silver needle on the round plate. At this moment, the silver needle was swaying left and right, but its general direction was ahead. "Go." Ningyu controlled the one-horned puppet and moved forward continuously. The one-horned puppet's speed was very fast, almost leaping several li in a single leap. East 3 minutes. South 1 minute. Straight 10 minutes. Along the way, under the guidance of the round plate, the one-horned puppet kept turning its head. The one-horned puppet's speed was very fast, so fast that it turned into a gust of wind. "I got it." Suddenly, the corpse puppet slapped its head and shouted. "What's going on?" Ningyu asked. "I know where the experts of the corpse insect and the Dark Emperor are trapped." After taking a deep breath, the corpse puppet revealed a frightened expression. "Trapped? Where are they trapped?" Ningyu faintly felt that something was wrong, but he still said in a deep voice, 10,000 Bone Cave." The corpse puppet uttered these 3 words. 10,000 Bone Cave? Ningyu's eyebrows twitched. It was obvious that he was unfamiliar with this place. "It's over, it's over. Anyone who enters the 10,000 Bone Cave will not have a good ending." The corpse puppet seemed to have gone crazy as it kept uttering these words. Slap. Ningyu slapped the corpse puppet's cheek, temporarily calming it down. "Speak, what's going on?" Ningyu said coldly. He wanted to know. "I'll tell you the truth. The 10,000 Bone Cave is very deep, so deep that you can't see the bottom. It's said that there's something powerful inside." The corpse puppet didn't seem to want to mention that place, but due to Ning Yu's power, it had to say, the 10,000 bone cave is not just a cave. With the 10,000 bone cave as the center, the surrounding area is very terrifying. Not to mention ordinary warriors, even a 9th grade human supreme would have a slim chance of survival if they entered there. How can you be sure that the Dark Emperor and the others entered the area where the 10,000 bone cave is? Ning Yu asked. I can't be wrong. This silver needle wheel will not lie to me. The corpse puppet raised the wheel in its hand and handed it to Ning Yu. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. As soon as Ning Yu held the wheel, the silver needle on the wheel swayed left and right, gradually increasing its speed. Not long after, the silver needle suddenly shattered, and cracks appeared on the entire wheel. Not good, the area of the 10,000 bone cave has expanded. Let's go, or else we won't be able to come out if we are trapped inside. Seeing the silver needle shatter and the wheel crack, the corpse puppet shouted crazily as it continuously retreated. At this moment, the corpse puppet acted as if it had seen a ghost. It did not listen to Ning Yu's control at all. At this moment, the corpse puppet only had one thought in its mind, and that was to leave this damned place as soon as possible. It did not want to step into the area where the 10,000 bone cave was. Chapter 1267. Crack, crack. Although the corpse puppet was constantly retreating, if one looked closely, it was spinning in place. In the end, the corpse puppet's knees were broken and its entire body sat on the ground. Panting heavily, the corpse puppet's face was full of despair. It's over, it's over, it's over this time. I've alerted the strongest experts in the 1,000 bone cave. The corpse puppet could not stop talking. Its eyes were dim and its entire body was surrounded by a cloud of turbid air. What the hell is this? Ning Yu took a step forward and shook off the turbid air around the corpse puppet. He said in a deep voice, "How dare you behave atrociously in front of me? Don't resist. You are no match for them. In the 1,000 bone caves area, they are the kings. They are almost invincible among those of the same level. Even killing those of a higher level is not a problem." The corpse puppet said weakly, and even tried to persuade Ning Yu to give up. Ning Yu's hair stood on end. Who was the corpse puppet? It was a late-stage 9th grade human supreme of the corpse insect. It was extremely powerful. If he did not use the bloodline power of the war god body, he would not be able to fight against the corpse puppet. But such a peerless expert now had no fighting spirit and was completely lazy. Ning Yu was very confused. What was hidden in the 1,000 bone cave that could make the corpse puppet like this? Kiki humans, it's been a long time since I've eaten humans. A late-stage 9th grade human supreme and a middle-stage 5th grade human supreme. Looks like I can have a good meal today. A gloomy voice rang in Ning Yu's ears. Then, a fist tore through the void and punched towards Ning Yu's head. Boom! Ning Yu was alarmed. He threw out a backhand punch, which collided with the fist behind his head unavoidably. When the two fists collided, Ning Yu and the mysterious expert both retreated several feet. After one move, the gloomy voice rang out again. But this time, there was a hint of surprise in the voice. A middle-grade 5th grade Sovereign Realm Cultivator is so powerful to be able to receive 10% of my strength. Indeed, he's not simple. He's much stronger than those who came not long ago. Hearing this, Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. He didn't show it on the surface, but his heart was in turmoil. It seemed like the Dark Emperor and the Golden Leo had entered this 10,000 bone cave by mistake. Voila! In an instant, the space in front of Ning Yu split open, and a young man appeared. This young man was similar to Ning Yu. He was dressed in a blue robe and his body was emitting a terrifying essence chi fluctuation. As soon as the young man appeared, Ning Yu discovered that the world tree sapling in his storage ring was trembling slightly. Could it be Ning Yu's expression was gloomy? He could vaguely guess the young man's identity. Dan Zhong. Ningyu didn't say anything. The corpse puppet next to him said with a terrified expression, "You're the Dan Zhong of the 10,000 Bone Cave. Why do you want to hurt me? I'm just passing by. Besides, I'm from the Een Corpse sect. Our sect leader knows an expert from your Dan Zhong clan. Hee, according to the rules of the 10,000 Bone Cave, all living beings that step into this place will become our food." The young man shrugged and said, "You're not bad. A late-stage 9th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator. You'll definitely taste good." As he spoke, the young man moved quickly and charged at the corpse puppet. Whoosh! Ningyu stomped on the ground and instantly stood in front of the corpse puppet. The corpse puppet was Ningyu's captive. Even if she was to be killed, Ningyu had to do it himself. How could he allow an outsider to interfere? Besides, the one before him was not a human but a Dan Zhong. "You're courting death." A cold light shot out from the young man's eyes towards Ningyu. The young man was unwilling to accept that his punch had failed to kill Ningyu. He was a peerless Dan Zhong, ranked 10th in the 10,000 Bone Cave. He was a mid-stage 5th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator, but he couldn't even finish off a human mid-stage 5th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator. If word got out, where would he put his face? Most importantly, this was the territory of the 10,000 Bone Cave. He could use the power of the 10,000 Bone Cave to increase his own strength and suppress his opponents. Under such circumstances, he still couldn't kill his opponent with one punch. If word got out to the 10,000 Bone Cave and the other Dan Zhong found out, he would become a laughingstock among the other Dan Zhong. Ningyu's expression was emotionless. He clenched his right hand into a fist and threw out a punch. But Ningyu's fist collided with the cold light and both dissipated. "You're not bad, but unfortunately, you're still no match for me." In just 2 short exchanges, Ningyu had a rough idea of the young man's true strength. He was a mid-stage 5th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator. With the help of the taboo formation, he could explode with the battle power of an early-stage 9th grade Sovereign Realm cultivator. However, this battle power was obviously useless against Ningyu. "Really?" The young man's eyes widened. He waved his hands and instantly activated the surrounding taboo formation. "Brat, in this taboo formation, I'm invincible, and you'll be suppressed," the young man said fiercely. "If I want to kill you, it'll be as easy as blowing off dust." Who doesn't know how to brag? The corner of Ningyu's mouth curled up. He moved his feet and walked towards the young man. Ningyu's speed wasn't too fast, but he kept moving forward. Damn it! Damn it! The young man cursed. At this moment the young man panicked. It seemed that the young man in front of him was not ordinary, and the taboo formation was useless against him. "Tell me where the Dark Emperor and the others are, and I can spare your life." With the sapling blocking the advancement formation, Ningyu was fearless. He took a step forward and appeared in front of the young man. Ningyu's majestic voice sounded out from his mouth, shocking everyone's heart. "You want to kill me? It's not that easy." The young man had a trump card. He took out a crystal ball and suddenly crushed it. Suddenly, an extremely dense wave of Yuan Qi appeared and was swallowed by the young man. Yuan Qi pill puppet? Seeing the young man's actions, Ningyu stopped and did not attack immediately. The young man in front of him was an Yuan Qi pill puppet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have swallowed so much dense Yuan Qi. At this moment, Ningyu had a bold idea. He could use this young man to lure out an even stronger Yuan Qi pill puppet from the Myriad Bone Cave. Ningyu was currently a mid-stage 5th grade human supreme. He hadn't accumulated enough Yuan Qi to break through to the late-stage 5th grade human supreme. Although this young man was only a mid-stage 5th grade human supreme, the pure Yuan Qi in his body was even greater than that of a late-stage 9th grade human supreme. As long as he could swallow a few more of these pill puppets, Ningyu was confident that he could quickly advance to the late-stage 5th grade human supreme, or even the late-stage 6th grade human supreme. Thinking of this, Ningyu said calmly, I won't kill you. You can leave. The young man didn't know what Ningyu was planning. Logically speaking, he had bullied Ningyu like this, so there was no reason for Ningyu to let him go. What I mean is, leave this body of yours, and you can split a part of your consciousness to return to the myriad bone cave. Chapter 1268. Chapter 1268. Chapter 1268 Resuscitation. You want me to leave? It won't be that easy. After swallowing the pure yuan qi in the crystal ball, the young man's aura increased several times. On the surface, the young man's cultivation was still in the middle phase 5th grade sovereign realm, but his fighting prowess had increased by a lot. Although the taboo formation is useless against you, we are of the same realm. I can still kill you. With that, the young man stomped his feet on the ground, and his body instantly shot out. At this moment, the young man wanted to start a massacre. He wanted to kill Ningyu. As the 10th-ranked pill puppet of the Myriad Bone Cave, the young man was very arrogant. When he fought with Ningyu just now, he was at a disadvantage, so this time, he had to get back at him. Kill Ningyu and refine him. The young man's aura skyrocketed. It was extremely terrifying, as if his aura could swallow mountains and rivers. Reckless. Ningyu's eyes flashed with a cold light as he faced the young man who was charging at him. He said in a low voice, I originally wanted to let you live, but since you're looking for death, I'll fulfill your wish. For the current Ningyu, he had no fear even if they were in the same realm. The young man in front of him was only at the middle stage of the 5th rank. Even if he was a Dan puppet, even if he had outstanding talent, there was no way he could contend against Ningyu. Universe Palm. Ningyu clenched his right fist and punched out. The Universe Palm was the 9th move of the Netherworld Samsara Palm. It was extremely powerful, especially after Ningyu advanced to the 5th grade Mortal Sovereign Realm. The might of the Universe Palm was several times stronger than before. But Ningyu's palm was very fast. His whole body was like an afterimage, appearing in front of the young man like a ghost. A crisp sound rang out. Ningyu's right hand left a mark on the young man's cheek. What? The sudden change caused the young man's expression to change drastically, and he even felt a little terrified. It's not good to be distracted now. After deciding to attack, Ningyu would not hold back. He grabbed the horned puppet and swung it at the young man. Kacha! Kacha! The single-horned puppet's body was extremely hard, so hard that it was terrifying. Ningyu had only just swung the horned puppet a few times when the young man was already covered in blood and his aura was rapidly weakening. What a piece of trash. I haven't even done anything and you've already fallen. Seeing the young man sitting on the ground, panting heavily and covered in blood, Ningyu curled his lips and said, You're too weak. You're not worthy of me using my full strength. Poochie. Hearing Ningyu's arrogant words, the young man couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Brat, are you trying to bully our 10,000 bone cave? The young man roared, If you have the ability, you can let me go. I'll find someone to deal with you. Have you lost your mind? Ningyu's mouth was slightly agape as he stared at the young man in disbelief. You want me to send back a delicious meal that's already in your mouth? Do you have a tumor in your head? Pu. Ningyu's words were very vicious, causing the young man to spit out a mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for the fact that I want information from you, I would have killed you long ago. Ningyu took a step forward and unleashed a powerful aura that soared into the sky. Actually, Ningyu was right. The young man was only a 5th grade intermediate human supreme. If Suemo wanted to kill him, he wouldn't even need to do it himself. Just the single-horned puppet alone would be enough. The puppet wasn't a human, so it wouldn't be restricted by the forbidden formation. Furthermore, with the puppet's 9th grade advanced human supreme strength, it wouldn't take much effort to kill the young man. Ha ha, don't even think about getting any information from me. Ha. The young man roared like a madman. At this moment, the young man seemed to have really lost his mind. I didn't want to devour you so early, but since you're looking for death, I can only start with you. Ningyu took a step forward and raised his right foot, stomping heavily on the young man's chest. Crack! The young man struggled with all his might, but he couldn't escape. Several of his ribs were also broken. Swoosh! At this moment, the small sapling burst out from the storage ring and entered the young man's mind. Buzz! The sapling was the world tree, and it specialized in suppressing pill puppet. Although the young man was a 5th-grade intermediate human supreme pill puppet, his aura was weak, so he was naturally no match for the sapling. Not long after, the young man was refined by the sapling. Where's the energy? Ningyu was puzzled when he saw that the sapling didn't give him any energy after refining the young man. One must know that the sapling had given him a lot of energy after refining the pill puppet in the past few times. Why didn't it this time? The sapling wanted to eat it alone. Ningyu was shocked. I need a lot of energy. Just when Ningyu was about to interrogate the sapling, an extremely weak fluctuation rang in Ningyu's mind. What the hell? The voice in his mind shocked Ningyu. He looked at the sapling in front of him suspiciously and asked, "Is it really you? Energy. I need a large amount of energy. Take me to the Myriad Bone Cave." The fluctuation became weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared completely. Gulp. Ningyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. It really was the sapling talking. Could it be that the sapling had become a spirit? Ningyu had many questions in his mind, but he knew that the sapling was in a deep sleep, and no one would answer his questions. If he wanted to understand everything, he had to find a large amount of energy for the sapling to wake it up again. After last time, Ningyu realized that the sapling was getting more and more sleepy, and it no longer produced Xingyang pills. To the Myriad Bone Cave. After thinking for a while, Ningyu decided to personally go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Although there were dangers in the Myriad Bone Cave, danger and opportunity coexisted. Without danger, there would be no opportunity. Ningyu didn't want to miss this opportunity. Moreover, the Dark Emperor and Golden Puppet were most likely trapped in the Myriad Bone Cave. Ningyu had to go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Shi Xiao, lead the way. I want to go to the Myriad Bone Cave. Ningyu grabbed Shi Xiao's shoulder and threw it on the horned puppet's shoulder. Shi Xiao was Ningyu's backup. Ningyu naturally wouldn't leave Shi Xiao behind. I can't go. The Myriad Bone Cave is extremely dangerous. Anyone who enters will definitely not survive. I'm not going. Shi Xiao shouted, and at the same time, tried to jump off the horned puppet's shoulder. Humph! Ningyu said angrily, if you want to stay, I'll send you on your way. As he spoke, Ningyu pointed a finger at the center of Shi Xiao's brows. Ah! An intense pain came from the forehead, causing Shi Xiao to scream. Shi Xiao's screams were very miserable, and she almost fainted a few times. After a while, Shi Xiao's screams stopped. I'll bring you to the Myriad Bone Cave. 100 miles ahead is where the Myriad Bone Cave is. The eyes of the corpse puppet were dim and lifeless. Let's go. Chapter 1269. Chapter 1269. Chapter 1269 To seize Myriad Bone Cave. This was a place of great danger. According to legend, all living beings that stepped into the Myriad Bone Cave's territory were killed without exception. However, something special had happened in the Myriad Bone Cave recently. Someone saw a youth step into the Myriad Bone Cave's area and enter the Myriad Bone Cave. 3 days later, the young man stepped on a cloud and flew out of the Thousand Bone Cave. A few days later, someone discovered that the young man had appeared in the Qianya Empire and finally landed in the Divine Emperor Palace. Of course, these were all rumors and not necessarily true. He really overestimates himself. He actually went to the Myriad Bone Cave alone. If not for the fact that we were out traveling, how could we have allowed him to act so viciously? In the depths of the myriad bone cave, within a certain luxurious palace, a young man with outstanding talents said in a deep voice, "Little Nine, there is no need to be angry. The ancestor has said that we can leave the myriad bone cave in a few days and head to the thousand-leaf empire to search for opportunities." Opposite the young man, a man in his 20s said, "Eighth brother, has a sovereign divine treasure really appeared in the thousand-leaf empire?" The eyes of the young man with a brilliant horn opened wide when he heard this. "Hee, for real." The man called Brother Boss smiled faintly and said, "Big brother, second brother, third brother, the three of them have already gone to the thousand-leaf empire to scout for us. When the time is right, we'll go there as well." Good, the appearance of the supreme divine treasure is definitely a great opportunity for our lineage to rise. The youth with the brilliant horn clapped his hands and cheered. "There's no hurry. There's still a period of time before the supreme divine treasure truly appears. Let's go take a look at that heaven-devouring dog." Waving his hand, Mina walked out of the palace. Rumor has it that Brother Ba caught a sky-devouring dog with an ancient bloodline. It's better to see it in person than to hear about it. I'll go take a look today. The young man with bright horns followed behind Mina and left the palace. Creak. In the dark secret room, the door was slowly pushed open. This secret room was located in the deepest part of the Thousand Bone Cave. It was the underground prison of the Thousand Bone Cave. It was rumored that all supreme beings and above who stepped into the Myriad Bone Cave would be brought here. As for what they would encounter here, no one knew, because no living being from the outside world had ever left. At this moment, the promising youth and the Mina were walking side by side in the secret chamber. On the two sides of the secret chamber were several cages. 1. Each cage imprisoned a supreme being. Some of these experts raised their heads and laughed, some muttered to themselves, some pounded their heads on the ground, and some remained silent. Without exception, the weakest among them was at the utmost exalted realm. 2. Supreme Being 1. Supreme Being, in the end, there were even two peerless powerhouses. Although they were trapped by the huge chains, it could still be seen from the surface that they were peak 9th grade human supreme martial artists before they were trapped. 1. 2 Dragon 2 9 Heaven on, A Supreme 1 2 2 Dragon 2 King 2 2 2, 2 2 2 2 2 2. The horned youth glanced at the two peerless experts with a look of disdain. Mina was very calm and always gave people a feeling of maturity and steadiness. The eighth brother's name was Dan Kong, and he was ranked 8th among the Myriad Bone Cave's peerless pill puppets. He was a peak 5th grade human sovereign. The outstanding youth beside him was called Dan Hao. He was ranked 9th amongst the peerless geniuses of the Myriad Bone Cave and had a cultivation of late 5th grade sovereign. After refining the two of them, 8th brother should be able to break through to the 6th grade human supreme, right? Dan Hao's face lit up with joy. Once 8th brother reaches the 6th grade sovereign realm, his strength will increase by several folds. At that time, he will be able to fight for the top 3. It's not that easy to fight for the top 3. Shaking his head, Dan Kong continued, even if I advance to the 6th grade sovereign realm, I can only make it to the top 5. It's basically impossible for me to make it to the top 3. Hee, 8th brother, don't think that I don't know that you captured the purple gold heaven-devouring hound. You definitely want to use some secret technique to refine it into an elixir. Dan Hao chuckled. That's a purple gold sky-devouring hound we're talking about. His bloodline is extremely dense. If we use him to refine medicine, there's a high chance we'll succeed. We're here. Dan Kong smiled indifferently before pushing open the door to the deepest secret chamber. The order inside isn't stable. Try not to use too much energy. Don't worry, 8th brother. It's not my first time here. I know what to do. It's good that you know. Dan Kong took out a key from his bosom and tossed it out. The key instantly shone brightly and opened the last door amidst Dan Hao's surprised exclamation. Creak, roar. As soon as the door opened, an earth-shattering roar came from within. "Eighth brother, didn't you say that you captured a heaven-devouring hound?" Hearing this roar, Dan Hao was a little confused. The owner of the roar didn't sound like a dog at all. Instead, it sounded like a tiger or a lion. "This dog is a little special. It's always barking," Dan Kong said. "Let's go in. Other than that dog, there's something special." "Something special?" Dan Hao raised an eyebrow and followed closely behind Dan Kong. "You two brats, hurry up and release your imperial grandfather. Otherwise, Ning Yu will skin you alive when he comes." Seeing Dan Hao and Dan Kong enter, the Dark Emperor roared. Chains interweaved around the Dark Emperor's body, trapping him to the point that he couldn't move at all. Even though the Dark Emperor was a Grade 4 human supreme, he was helpless against these chains. Behind the Dark Emperor, Jean An's body emitted a golden glow as he tried his best to defend against the golden scroll above him. "I would like to meet that so-called Ning Yu." Dan Kong walked past the Dark Emperor and stood before Jean An. "This Jean An's mind is extremely special. Even the ancient scroll can't break it." "Eighth brother, the special thing you're talking about should be this Dan An, right?" Dan Hao pointed at Jean An, nodding. Dan Kong said, "That's right. This Dan An's battle prowess has reached the late stage Grade 9 human supreme. Furthermore, it's made of special materials. If we can control it, it'll be of great help to us in the fight for the sovereign divine treasure." "What's so difficult about that?" Dan Hao took a step forward and a cold gleam shot out from his eyes. "Chi-chi." The cold gleam tore through the void and appeared between Jean An's brows. "Get in." Dan Hao forced out his blood to activate the cold gleam. Jean An's body shone brightly as he tried his best to defend against the cold gleam. 10 minutes later, Jean An finally couldn't hold on any longer. His forehead was pierced. "Poochie." At the same time, outside the Myriad Bone Cave, Ning Yu felt something sweet in his throat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. "It really is in the Myriad Bone Cave." Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Ning Yu's face turned even colder. Chapter 1270. Kill. "Sapling, if you want more energy, stop pretending to be dead. Hurry and tell me if there are any powerful old monsters in the Myriad Bone Cave." Standing at the entrance of the Myriad Bone Cave, Ning Yu began to communicate with the sapling. Ning Yu was not a fool. He would not barge into the Myriad Bone Cave like this. Since the Myriad Bone Cave could make people's expressions change, it meant that this place was special and extremely dangerous. Although he was eager to save the Dark Emperor, Ning Yu had to plan ahead and would not barge in recklessly. "Forbidden array. I can break your energy. I am asleep." An ethereal voice rang out in Ning Yu's mind. Ning Yu was slightly startled. It seemed that the sapling had recovered quite a bit after devouring the young man. "The sapling is the world tree. It should not lie to me." After a moment, Ning Yu clenched his teeth and jumped into the Myriad Bone Cave. The Myriad Bone Cave had a total of 10 levels. At this moment, Ning Yu stood at the entrance of the first level and looked up. The words, "Myriad Bone Cave," were carved on a huge rock. It should have been carved by a 9th-grade human sovereign. Ning Yu's gaze landed on the rock. Slash! Suddenly, Ning Yu moved. He wielded the red demon sword and heavily slashed at the rock. Crack! In an instant, the rock was shattered. However, the words, "Myriad Bone Cave," on the rock turned into 3 sharp swords that shot straight at Ning Yu. Small fry. Ning Yu's fighting spirit sword as he waved the red demon sword in his hand. In an instant, several sword lights flew out and blocked the 3 sharp swords. Crash! The battle did not last long, ending in a minute. However, after the battle ended, several figures suddenly rushed out of the first level of the Myriad Bone Cave. Ning Yu looked over and saw that the cultivation of these figures was not very high. The highest was only a 3rd-grade human sovereign. Which scoundrel dares to trespass the 10,000 Bone Cave? Kill without mercy. Numerous Supreme Being Realm martial artists moved out one after another. For a time, this area was filled with magical techniques and sword shadows. In the middle of the battle, Ningyu was calm and unafraid. He waved the red demon sword in his hand even more vigorously. Ka ka ka. Every time Ningyu swung the red demon sword, a Supremacy Realm martial artist's head would fall to the ground. After the venerable stage Dan puppet died, their bodies would explode, and the energy within their bodies would transform into a ball of light that entered Ningyu's storage ring. Not good, retreat quickly. Ningyu's fiend-like battle finally caused these pill puppets to retreat in fear. However, since Ningyu had decided to make a move, he would not let a single one of them escape. In order to kill these pill puppets as soon as possible, Ningyu did not hold back. He even brought out the single-horned puppet. The single-horned puppet had fought with Jin Tu before. Its strength was at the late stage 9th grade sovereign stage. It was a terrifying existence. Ningyu and the single-horned puppet attacked together. In just 3 minutes they killed all the experts here. Apart from the majority of the pill puppets transforming into energy and being absorbed by the sapling, a small amount of energy landed in Ningyu's body and was devoured and refined by Ningyu. Not bad, the pill puppets are indeed my lucky star. If I want to break through in the future, I should look for them. Ningyu was very satisfied. This battle was very shocking. He and the single-horned puppet worked together and killed many pill puppets. Without exception, these pill puppets were all essence pill caverns. The energy within their bodies filled Ningyu's consciousness with vitality, and his cultivation reached the peak of the mid-stage 5th grade sovereign stage. To the 2nd floor. Ningyu waved his hand and directly brought the single-horned puppet to the 2nd floor. Before entering the 10,000 bone cave, to ensure the safety of the corpse puppet, Ningyu threw it into the storage ring. After all, the storage ring could store people and temporarily protect the corpse puppet's life. 2. The 2nd floor of the 10,000 bone cave was similar to the 1st floor. There was also a huge stone. On the stone there was a 2 carved. It was carved by a 5th grade sovereign stage. Ningyu was a little surprised. He did not expect a 5th grade sovereign stage to be able to carve this kind of word. This, too, had already triggered a great momentum, and it could faintly merge with the void. Break! Ningyu flicked his finger. Instantly, a cold light flew out and hit the stone. Ningyu was very surprised, because when the cold light hit the stone only shook a little, and then returned to normal. One must know that the cold light just now was an attack with 30% of Ningyu's strength. Just one word can block an attack with 30% of my strength. It's much stronger than that 5th grade sovereign stage who was shouting outside. Ningyu put away his contempt and began to re-examine the stone. Not long after, Ningyu made his move. Once he made his move, it was shocking. Ningyu held the red demon sword in his hand and slashed at the stone. Crack! Ningyu's attack was earth-shattering. The huge stone was directly pierced through and split into 2. The 2 turned into a cold light, trying to hide in the void. Trying to leave? Stay and let me have a look. Ningyu made his move again. The frequency of the red demon's sword in his hand became faster and faster, so fast that it could not be seen with the naked eye. The 2 wanted to block, but in the end it was powerless and lost, and Ningyu took it away. This word is very special. It contains a trace of a special path. Looking at the 2, Ningyu frowned and murmured, "Poof!" Suddenly, the 2 character exploded and turned into dust. Good, very good, very good. How dare you? After the 2 exploded, a huge shadow appeared in midair. It said coldly to Ningyu, "Today, I will make sure you have nowhere to go." Arrogant. Ningyu extended his right hand and gradually enlarged it. In the end, he slapped the shadow, shattering it. "Just you wait, I will kill you." The cold voice resounded in the area and then disappeared. Immediately after, many experts appeared on the second level of the Myriad Bone Cave. These experts were all rank 4 supreme martial artists. Kill. Ningyu knew what his goal was. He raised the red demon sword and charged forward. With the sapling, Ningyu was naturally not afraid of the super strong Dan puppet in the Myriad Bone Cave. Or, in other words, the sapling knew that there were no super strong Dan puppets in the Myriad Bone Cave, which was why it sent him down. Otherwise, even the sapling would feel uneasy if the super strong Dan puppet targeted it. In the deepest part of the Myriad Bone Cave, Dan Hao spat out a mouthful of blood. What happened? Beside Dan Hao, Dan Kong asked hurriedly. Someone killed their way in. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Dan Hao said in a low voice. What? Could it be an Earth Supreme? Dan Kong was shocked. Currently, the Myriad Bone Cave was empty. The super strong had already left for the Thousand Leaf Empire. Even the other Dan puppet geniuses had left the Myriad Bone Cave. If an Earth Supreme came in now, it would be difficult for them to escape. It's not an Earth Supreme, but a rank 5 intermediate human supreme. Dan Hao said coldly. He has already killed his way to the second level. Rank 5 intermediate human supreme? How could he enter the Myriad Bone Cave? Chapter 1271. Chapter 1271. Activating the Forbidden Formation. There seems to be a problem with the Forbidden Formation. It hasn't been activated, Dan Hao said. Oh no! Suddenly, Dan Kong said hurriedly, Little Ten is on the first floor. Could it be Dan Kong didn't finish his sentence, but he knew very well what was going on. Until now, the Little Ten they were talking about had not contacted them. The result was obvious. Crack. Thinking of this, Dan Kang's already cold face became even colder. Kill. Clenching his fists, Dan Kong said coldly, I'd like to see how capable he is to dare to trespass the Myriad Bone Cave. No rush. At this moment, Dan Hao calmed down. His eyes shot out a frightening light. Why? Dan Kong asked, confused. He didn't know what Dan Hao meant. One had to know that before the super-strong Dan puppet left the Myriad Bone Cave, he had seriously warned the top few geniuses to watch over the Myriad Bone Cave. However, the top few geniuses couldn't bear the loneliness and left one after another for the Thousand Leaf Empire. In the end, only Dan Kong, Dan Hao, and the 10th-ranked Dan puppet were left in the Myriad Bone Cave. The heavy responsibility of guarding the Myriad Bone Cave naturally fell on Dan Kang's shoulders. One could imagine that if the Myriad Bone Cave was completely breached, he would be severely injured even if he didn't die when the experts returned. The first and second floors' forbidden formations haven't been activated, but that doesn't mean the third floors won't be activated. Dan Hao said confidently, the third floor belongs to you, eighth brother. You can activate the forbidden formation now and trap that expert. Alright. Dan Kang's eyes brightened. This was a good idea. If he activated the forbidden formation first, that intermediate grade 5 human supreme would not be able to retreat or enter. I'll activate the formation first. You quickly control the puppet. It has the battle power of an advanced grade 9 human supreme. Leaving these words, Dan Kong sat down cross-legged and waved his hands, starting to activate the forbidden formation of the third floor. It's Ningyu. Actually, when Ningyu just entered the Myriad Bone Cave, the Dark Sovereign already discovered Ningyu's aura. It was just that he did not dare to be certain. As Ningyu fought his way to the second level of the Myriad Bone Cave, the Dark Emperor finally confirmed that the newcomer was indeed Ningyu. I have to think of a way to warn Ningyu that he must be careful of the Forbidden Grand Array. The Dark Emperor forced out a drop of essence blood from his body and carefully refined it, attempting to communicate with Ningyu. Poochie. However, just as the Dark Emperor refined the blood essence, he spat out a large mouthful of dark red blood. Indeed, it's related to you. If I've guessed correctly, that 5th grade middle phase human sovereign should be the Ningyu that you mentioned. Dan Kong suddenly stood up and stared at the Dark Emperor. He said coldly, "Do you think the cage of the thousand-bone cave is so easy to break? Truth be told, even an Earth sovereign wouldn't be able to send their perception out. As for you, just obediently stay here. We will capture Ning Yu and reunite the two of you." Humph. The Dark Emperor coldly snorted and did not speak. The Dark Emperor knew that whatever he said right now was unnecessary. Since there was no point in talking, he might as well conserve his strength and wait for Ning Yu to come over to deal with the two Danzhongs. The Dark Emperor was confident in Ning Yu. He knew that Ning Yu had the World Tree sapling that could restrain Danzhongs. Although the World Tree sapling often stood Ning Yu up, at this crucial moment, the World Tree sapling would definitely let bygones be bygones and deal with Danzhongs. Furthermore, Danzhongs were great nourishment for the World Tree sapling, so there was no reason for the World Tree sapling to not make a move. "Eighth brother, have you already activated the third level's Grand Array?" Dan Hao came before Dan Kong and asked. Nodding his head, Dan Kong said, "The Forbidden Grand Array has already been activated. No matter how talented he will still be killed by the Forbidden Grand Array. I've already gained complete control of this puppet. In my opinion, we should go up and take a look, just in case something happens." Dan Hao was a cautious person. "Ha ha, what's there to worry about? Since you have this idea, let's go now." Laughing loudly, Dan Kong stomped his feet on the ground and walked straight out of the secret chamber. This was the Myriad Bone Cave's prison. There was a killing Grand Array laid down here. Even Dan Kong and Danzhongs, these two geniuses, did not dare to borrow the power of space to fight. Go. Sooner or later, we will all be killed by Ning Yu," the Dark Emperor said viciously, wishing that he could immediately go up and finish off the two of them. Ning Yu was a weird person with many secrets. Now that the Myriad Bone Cave was empty, the way the Dark Emperor saw it, Ning Yu would very likely kill his way here. Buzz buzz. At the entrance of the Myriad Bone Cave's third level, Ning Yu floated in midair. The Red Fiend's sword in his hand gave off a buzzing sound. Ning Yu did not continue to attack. Instead, he stared at the transparent Grand Array in front of him. Just now, Ning Yu had already communicated with the World Tree sapling, wanting it to come forward and crack the Forbidden Grand Array. But regrettably, the World Tree sapling swallowed too much energy and just happened to fall into a deep slumber at this time. As for how long, the World Tree sapling's answer was 3 minutes. Ning Yu's face was full of speechlessness. 3 minutes. It was not that he could not afford to wait, but he was afraid that the Dark Emperor could not afford to wait. He could sense that the Dark Emperor was in the deepest parts of the Myriad Bone Cave. But no matter what, he had no way of contacting the Dark Emperor. Each time his perception passed through layers of obstacles and arrived in front of a secret room, it was as if he encountered something terrifying, causing his perception to be unable to advance in the slightest. Perception, soul force, Ning Yu used them all. He just had no way of contacting the Dark Emperor. It bodes ill rather than well. Sucking in a deep breath, Ning Yu muttered to himself. The current situation was very clear. As long as the World Tree sapling woke up, he could kill his way to the 4th level. Now that there was a Forbidden Grand Array, it was a little unrealistic for him to want to forcefully break it open. "I can only wait." Sucking in a deep breath, Ning Yu started to refine the enormous energy in his sea of consciousness. On the 2nd level of the Myriad Bone Cave, many Yuan Chi-Dan puppets had been killed by him and the Horned Puppet. Although most of them had been devoured by the World Tree sapling, the remaining energy still filled Ning Yu's sea of consciousness to the brim. It was showing signs of a breakthrough. Could it be that I have accumulated enough? That I can break through to the later stages of the 5th level Supreme Martial Artist? Ning Yu was a little suspicious. He sent a portion of his perception into his sea of consciousness and started to slowly inspect it. Ning Yu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw the results of the inspection. The reason why Ning Yu was surprised was not because someone had left a mark in his sea of consciousness, but because the energy in his sea of consciousness had reached a critical point. As long as he refined all the remaining energy, he could immediately advance to the later stages of the 5th-level Supreme Martial Artist. Why not give it a try? Ning Yu looked left and right, then sent a portion of his perception to search the surroundings. Finally, he found that the horned puppet was guarding the exit of the 3rd level. As for him, he began to devour the remaining energy in his sea of consciousness. Gotcha! The spirit transformation technique quickly circulated, and Ning Yu quickly and efficiently devoured all the energy in his sea of consciousness. Rumble. Chapter 1272. Kill. Dan Kong. Dan Hao. Dan Chi walked out of the formation. It was none other than Dan Kong and Dan Hao. How dare you? Dan Kong locked his eyes on Ning Yu. Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times. Then, let me devour you. Otherwise, I'll execute you on the spot. Break through. Ning Yu did not answer Dan Kang's question. Instead, he devoted himself to his cultivation. He was at the crucial moment of breaking through to late-stage 5th-grade Human Supreme. He could not be disturbed. Otherwise, all his previous efforts would be wasted. He would not be able to break through anytime soon. You're courting death. Dan Kang's eyes turned cold when he saw that Ning Yu was ignoring him. He stomped on the ground and charged forward. Dan Kang's speed was very fast, so fast that it was terrifying. Almost instantly, Dan Kong arrived before Ning Yu. He raised his right fist and punched at Ning Yu's head. Brat, your stupidity will cause your bloodline to be uprooted, Dan Kong said darkly, as if he could see Ning Yu's brain being blown apart. Bang! Dan Kang's fist met with an obstruction. A puppet? At the crucial moment, the puppet blocked the punch for Ning Yu. Dan Kong was indeed the 8th-ranked genius of the Myriad Bone Cave. He was extraordinarily powerful. He forced the puppet back several meters with a single punch. The puppet was a late-stage 9th-grade Human Supreme. From this, one could see how terrifying Dan Kang's strength was. Brother Ba, leave the puppet to me. Dan Hao stepped forward and controlled the Golden Leo to charge forward. Through the exchange just now, Dan Hao had already determined that the puppet had the combat power of a late-stage 9th-grade Human Supreme. If Dan Kong fought it head-on, he might be in trouble. Rumble. The Golden Leo also had the combat power of a late-stage 9th-grade Human Supreme. Neither side could do anything to the other. Alright. Brother Ba, we'll work together to take down this puppet. We'll have another thing to rely on when we go to the Thousand-Leaf Empire. Dan Hao was overjoyed. The single-horned puppet's battle prowess was extraordinary. If he could take it, his and Dan Kang's battle prowess would not be any weaker than Dan Ming's, who was ranked 3rd in the Myriad Bone Cave. No problem. Dan Kong gave up on Ning Yu and turned to attack the horned puppet. Give me 2 more minutes. Ning Yu's heart was unperturbed. He was very calm. Right now, it was a crucial moment for him to break through to the late-phase 5th-grade Sovereign Realm. He couldn't afford to think about those messy things. Otherwise, all his previous efforts might go to waste. Activating the spirit transformation art to the extreme, terrifying energy moved around Ning Yu's body. At this time, Ning Yu was slowly floating in the air, in a completely ethereal state. Fortunately, Dan Kong and Dan Hao were busy dealing with the horned puppet, wanting to subdue it. Otherwise, if one of them had the time to deal with Ning Yu would be dead for sure. The ethereal state was very rare, but its defense was almost 0. Ha ha ha! Time ticked by, and in the blink of an eye, 2 minutes had passed. Far away, Dan Kong grabbed the horned puppet's arm and laughed. The horned puppet is indeed extraordinary. Its battle strength should be slightly stronger than the Golden Leo. With it, my battle strength will at least double. Congratulations, 8th brother. Keeping the Golden Leo, Dan Hao said, As long as you remove the mark in the puppet's mind, you can control it. There's no rush. Let's deal with the troublesome Ning Yu first. Waving his hand, Dan Kong said, since he dared to come to our myriad bone cave, he must have a lot of treasures on him. We got lucky. Is that so? At this moment, Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes, and a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Ning Yu's eyes were bright, and he said in a low voice, "Let me give you a piece of advice. Return the horned puppet and the golden Leo to me, or I'll let you know why flowers are red." Have you lost your mind? Although Ning Yu's aura was a little terrifying, Dan Kong did not take it to heart. No matter how strong your aura is, you're only a late 5th grade supreme. Dan Kong was confident that he could kill a late 5th grade supreme within 3 moves. Forget it. Against a foolish human like you, I'll just kill you and eat you. Glancing at Ning Yu with disdain, Dan Kong dashed out. Dan Kong was confident that he could kill Ning Yu, so he did not let Dan Hao and the Golden Leo follow. Ning Yu, I'll let you know that the Myriad Bone Cave is not that easy to barge into. Dan Kong said coldly. The reason why you could pass the first 2 levels was because Old 10 and Little 9 were not there. Now that I'm in charge of the 3rd level, I'll definitely kill you. Take my punch. Dan Kang's body glowed brightly, and his right fist contained a terrifying aura as it punched towards Ning Yu's head. So what if I take your punch? The corners of Ning Yu's mouth curled up. He wrapped his yuan qi around his fist and threw a punch. Bang! The 2 fists collided with a loud bang. With the point of collision as the center, a terrifying shock wave spread out in all directions. Oh no! The shock wave was so terrifying that even Dan Hao was a little shocked, and he quickly retreated into the forbidden formation. At the same time, Dan Hao shouted, "Eighth brother, retreat!" Retreat? Can he even leave? The life-threatening voice sounded again. Ning Yu walked in the air, waving his fists continuously. Bang bang bang! Every time Ning Yu threw a punch, there would be a crisp sound. Go to hell. After slapping Dan Kong dozens of times, Ning Yu finally retracted his palm. The reason why Ning Yu retracted his palm was not because he wanted to let Dan Kong go, but because he wanted to kill Dan Kong. 10,000 Holy Flag. 10,000 Beast Flame. With a flick of his finger, a flag and a ball of flame flew out. Oh no! The flag and the flame gradually expanded in Dan Kang's eyes, and finally crashed into his head. The flame of 10,000 beasts corroded Dan Kang's consciousness, and the 10,000 Holy Flag prevented Dan Kong from escaping. Although Dan Kong was an Yuan Qi pill puppet, Ning Yu was still worried, afraid that he was a combination of Yuan Qi pill puppet and Soul pill puppet. The result proved that Ning Yu was overthinking. The flame of 10,000 beasts ignited Dan Kang's consciousness, and his entire body exploded. Ning Yu did not intend to refine Dan Kang's Yuan Qi pill puppet. His plan was simple. He would first capture the other pill puppet and force out the Dark Emperor's whereabouts. This was the most important matter, and he could not afford to make any mistakes. You killed eighth brother. Dan Hao had already retreated into the forbidden formation. He pointed at Ning Yu with his right hand and said in shock, "You are not a mid-stage 5th grade supreme martial artist. Which old monster are you? Why must you become enemies with the Myriad Bone Cave?" Dan Hao did not believe that Ning Yu was a mid-stage 5th grade supreme martial artist. No, he did not believe that Ning Yu was a late-stage 5th grade supreme martial artist. How could a late-stage 5th grade supreme martial artist be so strong, killing Dan Kong in the first exchange? Although Dan Hao was strong, he was only slightly stronger than Dan Kong. Chapter 1273. Chapter 1273. Chapter 1273 To feign civility, eighth brother? What a strange name. Shrugging, Ning Yu said, "I'll give you a chance to live. Give me back Jean 2 and the single-horned puppet, and I'll spare your life. I, Ning Yu, am a man of my word. As long as you listen to me, I promise I won't kill you. Dan Hao's face darkened when he heard Ning Yu's words. Dan Hao was pondering how he could defeat Ning Yu, or even kill Ning Yu. It was impossible to fight him head-on. He could only lure Ning Yu into the forbidden Grand Array, and then use the Golden Banshee to kill him. Although they had worked together to erase the mark in the single-horned puppet's mind, he hadn't left a mark on it, so he couldn't control it for the time being. Damn it! If I could control the single-horned puppet, I wouldn't be afraid of you, Dan Hao said viciously. Both the horned puppet and the golden Leo possessed the battle prowess of a late-stage 9th-grade sovereign. Dan Hao believed that if the two of them attacked together, Ning Yu would definitely not be able to resist. However, given the current situation, Dan Hao could only first stabilize Ning Yu and think of a way to trick Ning Yu into the Grand Taboo Array. Ning Yu, it's not impossible for me to listen to you. Let's talk inside. After leaving behind these words, Dan Hao turned around and left, retreating to the 3rd level of the Myriad Bone Cave. Dan Kong had already activated the forbidden formation of the 3rd layer of the Myriad Bone Cave. Furthermore, he had activated the strongest forbidden formation. Dan Hao didn't believe that Ning Yu could contend with him in such a terrifying Grand Taboo formation. As long as you come in, I will definitely kill you. Dan Hao entered the depths of the 3rd floor without looking back. A cold expression appeared on his face. As you wish. Ning Yu was very clear about the formidability of the Forbidden Array, so he did not act rashly. Instead, he paused on the spot for another 30 seconds before striding into the Forbidden Array. With the sapling around, these taboo Grand Arrays wouldn't be able to affect Ning Yu. Rumble! Ning Yu had just stepped into the Forbidden Grand Array when the weather suddenly changed. Strong winds blew all around, sending sand and pebbles flying. Ah! Following that, a loud laugh came from the depths of the Forbidden Array. I knew it would be you. Ning Yu narrowed his eyes and said, Do you really think this formation can trap me? Of course. After laughing, Dan Hao said, There are many forbidden formations in the Myriad Bone Cave. These formations have fatal restraining effects on humans. As long as you are a human, your battle prowess will drop by 90% in the promotion formations. As for me, my battle prowess will increase by 90%. How can you possibly be a match for me? Ha ha ha! Dan Hao laughed heartily again, as if he had everything planned out in the bag. Do you really think you can defeat me? Ning Yu did not expose the sapling immediately. He looked around and said, If you come to your senses now, I can let bygones be bygones and spare your life. You're still so stubborn even at death's door. In terms of bragging, I admire you the most, Dan Hao said disdainfully. Then, Dan Hao controlled the Golden Two and charged at Ning Yu. I'll teach you a lesson first. Whoosh! The Golden Two was already under Dan Hao's control and completely obeyed his orders. Dan Hao's mission was to teach Ning Yu a lesson, but not to kill him. The Golden Two did as he was told and began fighting fiercely with Ning Yu. Bang! With just one move, Ning Yu was sent flying and slammed heavily into the barrier of the Forbidden Formation. The Forbidden Formation is indeed powerful. It suppressed my strength to only 10%. Ning Yu was shocked. The Forbidden Formation was indeed powerful. Inside, his strength was greatly suppressed and he could only use 10% of his peak battle prowess. On the other hand, Dan Hao's aura was extremely terrifying. Sapling, hurry and break this forbidden formation. Ning Yu did not want to be attacked by the Golden Two again. He hurriedly communicated with the sapling and told it to break the formation. No problem. The sapling's voice sounded in Ning Yu's mind. Gotcha! An extremely clear sound rang out. The barrier around the forbidden formation gradually cracked, and the cracks grew larger and larger. Finally, the entire forbidden formation completely disappeared. What? Dan Hao was originally very excited when he saw Ning Yu being forced back by the Golden Tuesday. But the situation of the forbidden formation made his heart sink to the bottom. This is impossible. How could you break the forbidden formation? Dan Hao shouted crazily. He did not dare to believe what had happened in front of him. Nothing is impossible. At this moment, Ningyu quietly appeared in front of Dan Hao. He stretched out his right hand and grabbed Dan Hao's neck. Don't move. If you dare to move, I'll break your neck. What do you want? Dan Hao quickly calmed down and did not panic, because he was in Ningyu's hands. Very good. Let me ask you, where is the Dark Emperor? Ningyu asked. Who is the Dark Emperor? Could it be the purple-gold sky-devouring dog? He's trapped in the deepest part of the Myriad Bone Cave. If you want to see him, I can bring you there. Dan Hao hurriedly said. I will naturally go there. But before I go, I need to take back my 2 puppets. Ningyu exerted some force with his wrist and separated a bit of his soul force into the puppet's mind. At the same time, Ningyu separated another bit of his soul force into Jin Tu's mind. There was no other person's imprint in the puppet's mind. Ningyu only spent a few seconds to regain control of it. As for Jin Tu, he brought a lot of trouble to Ningyu. Behave yourself. Ningyu released all his aura and pressed down on Dan Hao, warning him not to play any tricks. Ningyu's action was very effective. Dan Hao became obedient, and Ningyu naturally erased Dan Hao's imprint in Jin Tu's mind and left his own. After a few minutes, Ningyu regained control of Jin Tu and the puppet. Take me to the Dark Emperor. To prevent Dan Hao from playing any tricks, Ningyu sealed Dan Hao's cultivation. At the same time, he left a bit of soul force in Dan Hao's mind when he wasn't paying attention. Although the World Tree sapling said that there was no powerful Dan Hao in the Myriad Bone Cave, Ningyu was still not at ease. 1 corpse puppet was far from enough. Ningyu's goal was to save the Dark Emperor and squeeze the Myriad Bone Cave dry. He naturally needed a second trump card. Don't think I don't know you're pretending. Ningyu could basically guess what Dan Hao was thinking. A peerless genius like him would not be so obedient. There must be something wrong when something was out of the ordinary. This meant that Dan Hao had some kind of plan, or was digging a trap for Ningyu and waiting for Ningyu to jump in. However, Ningyu wasn't too worried, since the sapling of the World Tree had a fatal restraining effect on Dan Qi unless a pinnacle 9th grade sovereign or an Earth sovereign realm Dan Qi appeared. It would be extremely difficult to kill him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dan Hao brought Ningyu through the first few levels of the Myriad Bone Cave and quickly arrived at the deepest secret room. The Dark Emperor you speak of is imprisoned in this secret room. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.